Welcome. How's everyone doing this morning? How's everyone doing today? Let me hear it. A little louder. Okay, awesome. Well, it's going to be, it is summer. Just like a joke around, I'm from New Hampshire. For those who don't know, the 603, live free or die, the Granite State. And it gets damn cold. And every once in a while, someone just says, wow, it's really cold here in January. And I'm like, well, every year. I'd be concerned if it wasn't. And so, inverted, we're in Austin, Texas. It's the summer. It's when CoinDesk chose to have Consensus Festival run here. I don't fault them for it. We love them for what they let us do, which is run the media stage here during Consensus Festival. So we're damn going to do it. We're going to have a damn good time. It's our last day with Laguna. Laguna Lounge is inside. Stefan Ross is here. Big round of applause for the Laguna team that's with us. Stefan Ross. Big round of applause for Team Link 2. They've been an awesome supporter. We've been along for the ride with them. It's been a symbiosis 10x, and those uninitiated on Link 2, a popular pre-IPO investment app. We'll be hearing from Stefan Ross a lot today. Right now, he's in the podcast studio, so there are two places we create content, and that's what we do here at a media house. Now, you know what a media house is. Create a lot of content. Podcast studio will be running all day. All of it's pre-programmed. There's a lot of guests. Most of them are speakers. On Consensus main stage, this is their second speaking spot. The other place we create content is right here on the stage. This is the media stage. It is the official media stage for CoinDesk Consensus Festival. This is an official satellite event. We're the only media house that CoinDesk recognizes. We're the only media outlet, Grit Daily, right here, that CoinDesk recognizes to run a media stage for them concurrent with Consensus Festival. This is how we do it. We're super popular during South by Southwest, Grit Daily House, among other media houses. So, some housekeeping. There is food here. Big round of applause for Adrian at the grill. Chef Adrian's. He's whipped up some breakfast tacos. Feed yourselves. Get some nourishment. A lot of vitamins in there. Courtesy of Mark Murrell, CEO and founder of Get Maine Lobster, one of the biggest lobster businesses. If you all know lobster culture. Anyone from New England in the house? Any New Englanders? We know Massachusetts. We got Maine. Any Mainers? New Hampshire, Vermont. Rattle them off. Why not? Why not? New Brunswick. I don't know. New Brunswick. I never see people from New Brunswick or Newfoundland here. But anyway, either way, we have lobster. 20 pounds of it came to us yesterday. We threw a little bit of it for lobster rolls. We'll have lobster quesadillas a little bit later with Chef Adrian. So visit him. He's over there. Anyone asks, it's like, where's the food? It's right there. See Chef Adrian. And he'll be pretty aggressive coming out to bring us some food, keep him nourished. Right behind you is the bar. There's drinks in the fridge, of course, inside. Help yourself in the bar room. Ozzy, the bartender. Big round of applause for Ozzy. Just pop that open so he can see us. There he is. Frozen drinks. There's white wine. Mondavi's always been good to us. Charlotte Celis has graced the stage, who's the GM at Mondavi. Yes, awesome woman running a drinks business. There needs to be more of them. She's the real deal and has been here on the stage before. But likewise, Deep Eddie's super awesome to work with. Waterloo Sparkling. My point is plenty of drinks back there, plenty of frozen drinks. He's got a blender. Whip them up for you. Don't be shy. And he'll come out, too, and keep us all hydrated because it's nice and chilly. It's a nice and chilly day here. We're getting a good breeze, though. We'll create some awesome content and have a good time. I'm going to bring up to the stage and introduce Sebastian Ross so you guys can see his face before he's often in the podcast room inside. And then after that, I'll introduce and bring up none other than Rachel Wolfson, who's here for our first panel, which is, we're not doing too bad. We're like a minute or two behind. And that's it for our first panel, which is at 11:30 with the whole crew. Blake Cummings is here. Big round of applause for Vault 12. Vault 12 is in the house. Doug Horn is here and the Good Block team. They've been awesome to work with, too. Sean's here as well. Sean Anderson. He's got the Pro Pass on. I would say Sean's a real pro. These guys are real events guys and know the drill. Robin Gaillard is here as well. I know he's in the house. But either way, I'll introduce another Rachel Wolfson, who's been with us a few times on this stage from Cointelegraph right after Sebastian. Sebastian, you want to pop up? Sure. Take the
big round of applause, Jordan French, everybody.
Thank you.
It's Jordan and his crazy ideas that make the Grit Daily House a reality. We just did this a few months back at South by. Lots of familiar faces have joined us, so welcome back. If it's your first time, welcome. My name's Sebastian Ross. I'm the host of the Grit Daily Startup Show. that Jordan and I launched in January of this year. I run a podcast agency and studio down in Miami, so if you ever make it down to the 305, look me up. But it's great to be with everybody here. We got an exciting day of programming. Stop by the studio. We'd love to show it to you. It's inside the house here. Not hard to find by any means, but Jordan, thanks for making this all happen, and welcome everybody.
Great. Thank you so much. Big round of applause for Sebastian Rusk and all that he does. It's going to be a popular podcast or an episode, I don't know, maybe thanks to our guest host, I don't know, well over 100 at this point since January. Yeah, that's epic. A lot of content. We typically have 6-7 panels on the stage, and that's no exception today. Last but not least, Veritone and their team is here. A little shout out to the Veritone crew. Ashley's here. Big round of applause for them. Those uninitiated on the public company, that's Veritone, been in business for 18 years. I think I want to say 18 years. It's been 2014. Sorry about that. I gave you an extra decade, but hey, why not? So anyway, it's clearly done really well. How large they're solid founding in enterprise AI, they've moved into the Web3 space. So all those companies, including those here, and investors that have raised a lot of money and want to build a metaverse and use AI tools to do it, please talk to them. They're right there, super friendly. And Ashley's here with us, and she's been hanging out the last couple of days as well to meet and greet. Talk to that team, Veritone. You'll hear from them later today on this stage as well. So without delay, I'm going to bring Rachel Wolfson, Cointelegraph. For working with us over and over again. Rachel, I'm going to hand you this mic, and are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Oh, great. Wow, that's what I like. That is conviction and commitment. I'm going to hand you this mic and let you take it away for this panel. Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks, Grit Daily, CoinDesk. This has been a wonderful event so far, so I hope everyone's enjoying Austin. I live here, and it's my favorite city, so yeah. Great. So today I'm moderating a panel entitled What's in a Crypto Wallet? And I'm going to have our panelists just come on up here, and then I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So panelists, will you please join me on stage for this? Thank you.
Hello. You guys hear? Can you guys hear it? One, two.
You want to sit? Yeah. I'll come over here. Okay, cool. Great. So once again, my name is Rachel Wolfson. I'm a senior reporter at Cointelegraph. I'm moderating, and the panelists are Douglas Horn. I will let you introduce yourself first.
Oh, hi. My name is Douglas Horn. My company is called GoodBlock, and I started the Telos blockchain back in 2018. GoodBlock's been building Web3 pillar tools like storage and governance tools and things like that for about 5 years before they were calling it Web3. So it's probably pretty common here. Thanks, Rachel.
Hey everyone, my name is Robin. I'm CTO at Laguna. We are building a DeFi ecosystem with a bunch of a blockchain, a wallet. I've been building wallets for the past 5 years, actually, at Horizon and Crypto.com. So yeah, very happy to be here and talking about wallet, sharing knowledge.
And I'm Blake Comagere. I'm the COO of Vault 12, and we do distributed cold storage and some other cool tools in the Web3 space.
Great. I'm going to have us take a seat, unless we want to stand, but I want to sit, so. Okay, wonderful. So let's just get started here. First question, how does Web3 fit into the crypto wallet space today? And whoever wants to start, feel free to just jump in.
Well, I can take this one. So, I mean, where, before the whole DeFi wave, wallets were mostly focused on just pure integration of crypto assets and blockchain and just basic, receive, send, scan the balance, all of that. Now we have a extra element with DeFi. We integrate smart contracts. That's what it means, integrating Web3 in a crypto wallet. It allows you to, enable dApps to access this wallet functionality and basically broadcast transaction, interact with all the Web3. Once it's integrated in your wallet, a mobile wallet, you could also just do all your DeFi interactions directly in your mobile.
I would say, so I been in crypto for a while, and I've always felt that it was really unfortunate that a wallet was called a wallet, because it's a strange metaphor. It's not right? It's people think of it as a wallet because that's where they think they're storing their money. But really it's just, your keychain. That's how you sign things, right? And what we're working on at Telos is making a wallet really more truly like your interface, your primary interface to a blockchain or multiple blockchains. So we have a web wallet that is non-custodial. That's I hope we can talk about custodial, non-custodial. And we've integrated it into very social, increasingly social platform, right? You can put your profile, your status. You can use that as your access to voting. You can use that as your access soon to your file storage, right? Using like our dstore, decentralized file storage, you can just go right there, right? You can do all these. You can vote. We have a great app that lets you do that. So I think that what wallets are going to be is social, multi-function, multi-chain interfaces that really becomes your primary portal to anything blockchain and Web3.
Right. Did you want to add anything there?
Oh, no, I was simply in agreement that I hate the word wallet. It's so... I see a little bit of a shift away from it. I think like MetaMask and Ledger both say account. Is that correct? I think
there's
right.
signers, like a MetaMask. It's good. Like, so on Telos, we use a different... we have actually both an EVM that uses MetaMask, and we also use our native L1 that has some kind of a signer program, right? And so we're really trying to say, put your keys in one signer, trust, that's open source and validated and everything. Trust it, and then don't let any other apps have your keys, right? And I think that is where MetaMask is also going.
I can see that.
Yeah, so I kind of think of it as a signer, kind of, and we just want to make it easier and easier, so it's your thumbprint or your, or whatever. Like,
right. Signer's a more descriptive name. I like it.
Yeah. It's just not, I get why it's wallet, right?
There's an inertia there.
Definitely.
Right, and now we're seeing with the advancement of Web3, people are actually able to own their assets and have control of their data. And so I'd like to know a little bit more. Is it possible to have a custodial wallet capable of accommodating Web3 assets, or does this have to be non-custodial? Maybe if we could also explain the differences between custodial and non-custodial wallets, that would be good.
So it doesn't have to be custodial or not custodial. In both cases, you can own the assets. The difference is that in a non-custodial scenario, you are responsible for your own keys. So you can see and access your private key, your key pair. You have full control over it. Nobody can take it from you, can broadcast transaction or whatnot on your behalf. You are in full control. So that's good in some sense, but also it puts a bit more stress on personal security. Whereas the argument for being custodial is you have a company that holds your assets on your behalf, so a bit like a bank, let's say, and most of the time, they would attract users for the simplicity of it. You don't have to care about your keys. You don't have to write your 12 words. We take care of it. We even insure your funds. So that would be an argument for being custodial.
Right, and well, I would say, certainly there's no technical reason that a custodial wallet couldn't do everything that a non-custodial wallet could, but at the same time, I cannot imagine most custodians wanting to kind of enable the free-for-all of what, interacting with every potential smart contract out there allows. So I think from a practical view, you will always see any interaction with Web3 in a custodial sense, in a custodial wallet, being significantly behind what's capable and possible with a non-custodial wallet. Simply because, take Coinbase for example, there's no way they're going to allow their custodial wallets to interact with every smart contract on the Ethereum chain, right? Now they may at some point say, okay, we're going to approve a particular set of smart contracts or a style, but they're never going to open the floodgates fully because it would be it'd be a clown car.
I would say that I don't like custodial wallets. I think the custodial but I recognize that if we're going to get mass adoption, we need the ease of use and the protection that right now mostly or only custodial wallets offer, right? Because when your grandma's sending something, and she loses her keys, you don't want all her money to be lost forever, right? So the challenge then that we're trying to do at Good Block and Telos is to make our non-custodial wallets as user-friendly as custodials. Find decentralized ways to do key recovery. There are ways to do these things. I think it's the sort of the bleeding edge challenge of onboarding people, but that's what we've taken on, and I think that it can be done. We've got a number of methods right now for key recovery that are decentralized.
The Bluetooth is disconnected.
And that, yeah. So there's ways to do it. I think that's I think that's what we're going to see, particularly because look at all the laws coming out. You may trust your non-custodial wallet, but the governments are not going to. They are already forcing them, to backdoor that stuff, and so if you want to have privacy, you've got to use something that's non-custodial, that you have your control of. And
Right. I mean, so let's elaborate on that. Why people would want to use non-custodial wallets versus custodial wallets. So privacy, Douglas, you just mentioned that. What other aspects do non-custodial wallets allow users to achieve that custodial wallets typically wouldn't?
Well, real quick, it's beyond privacy, right? Because it's like reaching in and the ability. It's not just not letting people know what you have. It's also not allowing governance to go in and basically be like a bank where they can turn off your account from right now. Right now, if you use USDT or USDC, they can just turn it. They can just pull your coins back, right? That's going to get misused by governments, and so that's the same problem you're going to have with custodial wallets. So it's much bigger than just privacy.
Right, and I think, I mean, historically, I understand why people in America certainly aren't particularly worried about that, but we have a phenomenal luxury here in that we can openly criticize our government without consequences. The majority of the world, more than 50% of the human beings on this planet, don't have that luxury. And so, you could simply, for the terrible crime of, saying terrible things on Twitter about your own government, find your finances seized.
Privacy isn't a luxury; it's an existential issue for, like you said, half the people in the world.
Yeah, and so it is pretty remarkable to simply, I mean, for the first time in human history, to be able to say you can't seize my currency just because I disagree with you.
Yeah, let's keep that going.
Yeah, I like it.
Right. So I'm curious to know your thoughts on the panelists' thoughts on with the rise of Web 3. Do you think that we're going to start seeing more users go to non-custodial wallets versus custodial wallets? And if so, what regulatory challenges and other challenges need to be overcome in order to accommodate that shift?
So I think in terms of regulatory hurdles that a non-custodial wallet could have is your point earlier. There is a whole load of smart contracts in DeFi. Even as a non-custodial wallet, I believe that this non-custodial wallet should curate the smart contract integrated, or like the DeFi protocol integrated within the wallet. You cannot just access some scam contract, some rug pull, then that would put the stress and put the project in a bad light. So yeah, in terms of regulation, I think the case also for non-custodial, we've seen in Canada, in Europe, this government's behavior where they're really trying to track you have to do full KYC for non-hosted wallet, they call it. So that's a challenge that every wallet will have. And I think finally to really facilitate onboarding of the crowd into DeFi, into non-custodial wallets, we really need to improve the UX overall. The UX is still it's not ready yet for mass adoption. I think we're getting there, but there's still a lot more work to do on the UX side of things, especially where now the industry is going, into a direction of cross-chain operability, many different chains. You may have USDT on many different chains. How are you going to display that on your wallet for a newbie user, right? Just join crypto. He doesn't know on which network is USDT, maybe, I don't know. So there's many different ways to construct a UX for a wallet. That's also a challenge.
But the goal is that users won't know or care what blockchain they're on any more than we care about HTTP today. It's going to be something that nerds do know about and care about, and some people will care a lot, right? But basically, it's just going to be the pipes of the these blockchains and what I call like a block mesh, which is a number of leading blockchains that work interoperably and in a really seamless way. Like you have these assets on Ethereum, but you're going to actually trade them on Telos because they can be faster, and then you're going to use oracles on Chainlink, right? All these things are coming together. I would say to answer your question, I think what you're going to see with the way that regulation is coming and the fact that people are going to want the kind of custodial wallets that require a lot of ease of use. So that means that who's going to be able to do that? Well, it's going to be the exchanges, right? Right now, I think a lot of the custodial wallets are going to go away because they can't put up with the regulation, and so you'll see it be Coinbase, and those will hold all your things, and of course they'll have the risks, and most people won't care about those risks, and the people who do will be using these sets of tools that we're building that are non-custodial. I think a shift is coming, though. I think more and more people are becoming aware of the fact that you can't trust your government and shouldn't, and that giant corporations are effectively your government now too.
And if I could expand on that a little, I think you'll certainly see use cases within Web3 that drive the non-custodial adoption. We saw that with NFTs, right? A large number of people that had previously been like, hey, Coinbase is all I need, finding themselves in a position of like, wait a minute, how do I set up MetaMask and get I want to buy this or buy that. And so I think kind of the frontier will always be these non-custodial use cases, because no custodial wallet is going to allow a free-for-all of interacting with smart contracts. It would be a disaster. So we'll always see that. But one of the really exciting potentials is if we see all of this nonsense that you have to deal with now in terms of interacting with smart contracts becoming something that's so kind of just these fundamental building blocks we can take for granted. I remember setting people up on the internet back in '95. And it was a nightmare. I had a list of 20 questions of let me figure out what your computer is missing in order to get it going. And now we can simply be like, what's the Wi-Fi password, and we go.
Right. But I think that I hear what you're saying, and I think you're right in a way, but I actually think you're coming from a place where you are expecting that everyone's going to want this big, rich experience. Don't tell me where I can go. And I think that most people are probably going to want a much more narrow, curated experience.
I think
it's not an argument. It's just the other side of what you're saying.
I think the frontier, the front lines will always be the non-custodial. The majority will probably.
What's your mom going to use?
My mom will use Coinbase. Yeah, she'll be like, that's where she'll keep her. A cool cat or.
It will be interesting to see with the rise of Web3 how the mainstream may start adopting non-custodial versus custodial, which I think we will start to see that as we move forward. But I wanted to ask you guys a question about DeFi. DeFi is down right now. We've seen some interesting events with Terra Luna. So given the fact that DeFi is down, how is that going to impact crypto wallets today and moving forward? Is there even going to be a need for these non-custodial wallets moving forward? Is DeFi going to make a recovery?
I think ultimately it'll make a recovery. I'm long-term bullish. You know, tech is remarkable at creating its own bubbles, right? And things get inflated, they course correct, and a lot of crap fails. But you know, some legendary, like remarkable things are forged in the fires of crypto winners. You see it happen again and again. Even before crypto, we saw it. Like the .com bubble. It's not like every company was a disaster. You know, Amazon, Google, and some other like just phenomenal industries came out of that. And we'll see the same.
It leads to consolidation, right?
Yeah.
It's a natural thing.
Yeah, and it's painful to live through. And you know, people make very hasty decisions. Like they dumped all their Amazon stock back in 2002, and that was a mistake.
Yeah, this is like my third crypto winner. So,
Yeah. Down 50% is kind of not that bad.
I don't even look at it. So really, as much as we want to talk about all the use cases and whatnot that will be in crypto someday, honest truth is, up until now, and probably for a while in the future, the primary use case for any and all cryptos is price speculation. That's what people are actually doing. So when you can tell that because because Ethereum transfer fees go down to 13 cents when when the coins are down, right? So it's entirely driven by that. So when we get to a time that that's not the case anymore, you will get it will weather the storm much better, right? Right now, you have nobody wants to use it. It's like they talk about DeFi's gone. DeFi's absolutely coming back. It's completely. It's going to be. It's a great question, but it's to those of us here who have the benefit of having been in this for a while. There's no question. DeFi is coming back. NFTs are coming back. They'll come back in a new form. They'll be slightly different. They'll be calling different. Some things will grow out of it, like OpenSea came out of the 2017 was like Survive is like one of those Amazons amongst all the pets.com, that died, right? You have your winners that come out and the same thing will happen to these NFT collections and the shitcoins and everything. The ones that survive that can find a way to keep building and keep tech and audiences will still be around in the next one. Right, and we'll consider them stalwarts, that are the pillars of the industry because they lived through one crypto winter.
Yeah.
Right, the crypto winter is time to build, and it's time for innovation. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that now. And then when we come out of it, we'll see a lot more new innovations. And like you said, NFTs aren't going anywhere, but they may take different shapes and forms, like data-backed NFTs, for instance, versus just the JPEG NFTs.
Oh yes, so many things. I mean, that's frankly why at GoodBlock we built D-Store, because there's a lot up until about a year ago. All the NFTs were stored on Amazon or Imager, things like that, and there's like no permanence to that. So we've been building this decentralized cloud called D-Store Cloud, and that is a way that you can actually put your NFTs on something that's going to persist and be there, that can't get shut down by governments, and that's a needed step. These steps come out of actual use and then less hype, so you can actually put your head down and build.
Right. Wonderful. Well, we are actually out of time, so I just want to thank our panelists. You guys have been great. Thank you to the audience. Thanks to Jordan and Grit Daily and CoinDesk. I hope you all enjoy Consensus and the Grit Daily House. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice, great question.
especially like Solana, Polkadot, Avalanche, what is different to the normal people or the newcomer to the to the industry, that would be very, very hard, right? So people cannot understand it, but if you told them about, NFT, they will very easily understand it. So what we all do for the investor and the project is about adoption and educate more people about this is Web3, this is crypto, and you get a chance to, own your own asset. That's probably the most important thing. The ownership is, I would say, the key to the Web3 world, right? It's not only about the money, right? For the money, you have to do custody in the banks, right? So you have to a third party to manage for you. Right now, at least you have an option that you can manage your own money. So that's the most important part of it. But beyond that, you also own the other things like the data, like the other content, like the other, art paintings. You just have the true ownership by yourself. That's, I think, the most important thing. If we're educating them, this is the case by throughout different kind of method like NFTs, others, then we do more adoption. I think eventually we will get billions of people to enter into Web3 world.
And Victoria, you're applying AI to improve the web. What's that going to bring to us as business people?
A lot. No, there's a lot that AI is already doing completely separate from this whole industry of Web3. And there are a lot of things where there's a lot of synergy. So for instance, one of our products that's actually currently on the market is within the energy sector, and we've been able to apply that to Web3. So for instance, mining or node farms, we're able to, through AI, optimize their energy usage to reduce their footprint and get closer to a carbon neutral and guide them in that direction. So that's something we're already doing, right? And then as far as integration into, good catch.
Breeze.
Yeah, it feels great. And then as far as integration into the actual technology, with AI, essentially we can do, I don't want to give away too much as far as where we're going, but the verification and authenticity of IP, which we've already been doing without AI and without Web3, or with AI without Web3, bringing that into the Web3 space so that the actual creators and the actual IP owners can be protected, coming to the mass consumer and be like, yes, this is me, look, I can prove it, essentially.
Stefan, you're the distributed finance guy. What's wrong with the currency we've got? Why do we need a new one?
Well, number one, the currency that we have is devaluating all the time. And it's become really hard to do transactions, right? I mean, I was talking about why I got into Bitcoin. It was because I could do it on a peer-to-peer basis. I can send anybody money from my phone to their phone directly without any intermediary, instantaneously. And that, to me, is brilliant. And it's a great user experience. I will prefer to spend and pay anybody in crypto or in a token before I go to a bank and have to use KYCs, login, 5 keys, or approvals. And I think the money institutions today have built up so many barricades that are regulatory forms and requirements and licenses and approvals that you need in order to interact with the money that you've worked hard to earn. Why is that so cumbersome? Why is it so difficult to work with that? And I just feel the barriers today are no longer about building a great user experience, by building a great facility to support money, managing your funds. Instead, it's a regulatory barrier. Oh, we're regulated. You have to go through this process. Oh, that's the barrier that you have today, and that's a barrier that slows down on innovation, and that, I think, is not good for the future of society.
So is Bitcoin a transactional currency or an investment opportunity? And do those two come in conflict?
Yeah, they come, Bitcoin originally was a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And there are two elements to Bitcoin. It was the blockchain and then the currency itself, the token. Today it has evolved to becoming the sort of gold 2.0, if you will. So it's become an asset that the industry has evolved to. And largely because the network itself, the chain, hasn't been able to support the volume at the price points that the market is asking for. And that's why you've had Ethereum, you've had the forks of Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash, you've had Ethereum pop up with the smart contracts capability. And when Ethereum started getting too expensive for transactions and too slow, then all of a sudden you have Polygon, you have Binance BNB chain, you have all these other sort of EVM compatible chains come up to try and bring it fast and make it cheap.
So, what as we're looking at the potential of Web3 and the things that it can bring, what are the obstacles today that are real that you're trying to address, or the industry should be addressing?
I would say first and foremost, education for people who are not in the bubble. I think someone on a previous panel alluded to tech being very good at creating their own bubbles, and this, in my opinion, is not a bubble that will remain a bubble. It's going to end up in mass adoption, and figuring out collectively as a community how we can start reaching out to that end user, the ideal end user, right, which is everyone, anyone we can pick off the street, and try and explain it to them in an effective way, starting as individuals and then also branching to the companies we're a part of, making that a part of our go-to-market, that education piece.
What other technical or infrastructure problems are we having?
I would say the scalability issue is still the one, right? Students still need layer 2 or before the H 2.0 to come. And that's always the problem. The other is cross-chain. Right now, you got all the, kind of bridge get hacked, right? So still there could be some improvement on top of that. Or you can use Cosmos or Polkadot, whatever. So I would say, the interaction between two protocols is, definitely the trend of the future. And, once you solve these two one of these two maybe problem, then we can have another bull market, I would say.
So that's basically multi-chain, right? So at the moment you have coins that sit on one chain or one nation, if you will. How do we provide the ability to transfer money from one nation or one chain onto another chain seamlessly and with less vulnerability, so securely?
And problems like that get solved typically through some kind of standards or adoption of methodology that either are defined by an industry group, defined by the government, or the biggest player wins. How's that problem going to get solved?
Well, in crypto, it's a ruthless market. It's really Darwinism rules. We are rewarded based on our merits, not based on a regulatory framework that protects us or a standard. It is how do we build and create a standard and get mass adoption of that standard. And the way the blockchain industry has driven that is through open sourcing a lot of the code base. And then it's up to the community to adopt it and embrace it, improve it, or actually even fork it and build a separate path because I don't agree with the strategy that it's going. And, it's really evolved purely thanks to the open source software community as fast as it has.
Yeah, I think crypto gives the people the option to choose. Just imagine if you live in a country, you have to use that fiat no matter what, right? So you have to use that for payment, for doing anything. That if it's bad design, crazy inflation, whatever, you don't have other option unless you move to another country, which most of people are not able to do that. But in crypto, if you don't like POW, you can always choose proof of stake, right? You can go, if you don't like Bitcoin, you go to Ether. If you don't like Ether, you go to Solana or Polkadot. You can always have an option to choose to the best kind of protocol using, right? Then, it makes, all these kind of protocols, have a lot of motivation to make great improvement to let all the community people be loyal to them, right? If you stop making great progress, then people will leave. So it's a free open source, open world. Then, we're kind of giving, the best, I would say, incentive for the protocol to become better and better.
I think, and that's really, how do you move forward? How do you attract I don't know what we call them, immigrants into your protocol, right? How do you get developers to build on you and help move it forward? How do you create jobs on your platform and in your protocol, right? And I think that's really the jobs that we have today in crypto are jobs that 5 years ago we didn't even imagine would be possible. Solidity developers, it's the most sought after job. 5 years ago, nobody thought about that, right? We wouldn't have even known what that was, right? And so
I still don't.
You still don't. There you go. Okay. But yeah, or growth marketing individual, right? On Telegram experts or Discord channel managers, I think 5 years ago it would have been a very novel role, and today it's common amongst all of us in Web3.
Yep. So what misunderstanding do you think most business people have about Web3 and crypto that if we could change would advance the whole industry?
They say it's making money very easily. I don't think that's the case. You still have to, dig into the industry very deeper and become a holder. Then you can make a lot of profit. It's not really easy to make money in the industry. So I think that's the biggest misunderstanding. And if people start to understand digging into the crypto industry, start to understand it, they will understand what is, how hard it is to do things in the crypto industry. It's never easy to succeed here.
I think also just that people think it's fake money, right? But even traditional fiat isn't necessarily asset-backed. So the differentiator, right, actually within Web3 is a majority of that cryptocurrency is backed by some sort of technology that it's also bringing to the market. Not just like the, shit coins, I don't know if I can curse, but, like the ones that aren't actually backed by anything. Yeah, and that's giving us all a bad name. But ones where there's legitimate technology backing it and or unique utility that elevates the whole market, the general consumer or business person doesn't necessarily even know what we're talking about, let alone the differentiator between those two.
I think the perception is an important. I think that's sort of what we're trying to say here is like Bitcoin and Web3 is super transparent. It's all available on a blockchain. There are explorers. You can follow every transaction. You can see every wallet. You may not know who owns that wallet, but you can see the wallet and you can see where the funds go between the wallets. For me, it's really the big thing is 95% of us in Web3 are good actors. The media picks up the 5% bad actors, and we are now trying to enforce that the 5% bad actors is the whole of the blockchain industry, and that's scaring away a lot of the others. How do we change that narrative? What do we need to do to address that? And I think Grit Daily and associations like that are really trying to bring and educate with experts on the panel that are actually in this industry that are normal people. We are docs, we're open, we're normal people, we're not gangsters, we don't wear masks, Maybe we are, but we're not wanted yet. No, but I mean, I think that's really the approach that we need to bring and change that narrative and have more and more active actors like Grit Daily and publish this kind of information.
And I feel like adding on to that point, us amongst ourselves, making sure that we're all in communication because we're essentially voting with our dollars and with our investments. And that way, if we have that transparency across ourselves in forums like this, where we can stay on the same page, then it allows us to invest in the right places where there are those good people versus bad apples.
So a lot of us have been on the sidelines kind of watching this whole thing evolve and haven't jumped in from an investment perspective yet. If you were to advise somebody like me who's ready to dip their toe, where would you be looking? What part of the industry would you be investing in?
I think doing your own research, and any one person who tells you and comes at you very emphatically, double check. Do your own research. I would say looking at the overall strategy of companies, not just what they're saying that they're doing within this particular area, but what they're trying to accomplish with what they're doing, as well as having members that are non-anonymous, right? I know that anonymity has kind of run next to crypto, but isn't necessarily a part of it or necessarily speaking to that same goal. So looking at the founders of wherever you're trying to invest and making sure that you believe in what they're trying to do and vote with your dollars in that way.
Yeah, I would say probably the blue chip coins first, like Bitcoin and Ether, because it's just safer. Before you do any research, you can always buy these. And the market goes down like 60% for Bitcoin and Ether, so probably a good time to buy. And it may go down further, but always good time to start accumulating some chips, right? Yeah, and for NFT stuff and really the others, like layer 1 protocol, even more new emerging areas, especially applications, I really suggest do further research before you make any investment. But more blue chip things that you can, that will give you a lot of certainty. You just buy it at a low price, then for the next bull run, I'm pretty sure you will get pretty good return on top of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that advice is pretty good, and it's definitely the way to go. To be honest, I mean, the only thing I would add is I believe in builders, so people that are actually building in the Web3 world, and try and find somebody there who can give you advice, give you the right YouTube follower, channels to go to, the right sources to get input on, what wallet to download and install, where to go and buy your Ethereum. Do you do it on Coinbase first and then you move across into a MetaMask? How do you do that? I mean, there's a journey you go down. You are embarking on a journey, and you need to find somebody that you trust that is working in this industry, because they'll then know and have insights which and what that journey is going to like, and they can handhold you through that journey. It's not today just ape in and you're in there, right? It's a journey, and you're going to go down that journey. And once you go down it, it's amazing.
Well, thank you for indulging this neophyte. It's some pretty basic questions, but really appreciated the insight, and thanks again for being on the hot seat today.
Thank you.
Thank you,
very
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Wow, yeah. A big round of and James, one more big round of applause for them. Thanks so much. Oh, I'm sorry, Victoria. Victoria, thanks. Well, we'll be back after a short break. I know we'll do some podcasting inside. For those of you in the live stream, stick around. We'll be back in just an hour with our next panel out on the media stage. Thanks again, and we'll return for the audience here to a reception format. Get some cold drinks in back, and Chef Adrian's got some food for you all. Thanks. Welcome back. Wow, this is. Well, everyone's soon hollering before I even asked for it. A big round of applause for y'all here at Consensus Festival Media Stage. Welcome to Grit Daily House. Yeah. See, Eric Christopher is in the house. Writes for Entrepreneur magazine. He's a lot of nerds who follow him and read his stuff. It's great. So if you're a nerd, for all the nerds out there, all the nerds on the live stream, a geek? No, I don't. What is the difference? Actually, Ann, if you want to come up, we can have a chat about this real quick. It'll be like a 2-sentence. Come on up. What is the difference between a geek and a nerd?
A nerd talks about things, but a geek gets it done.
Wow. Round of applause for the geeks and the nerds reading Eric Christopher's column. So if Eric's getting things Grit Daily House, the media stage, the official media stage for CoinDesk Consensus that we have. Big shout out to the CoinDesk team for permitting Grit Daily and recognizing Grit Daily to run their media stage with some really awesome guests over the last 3 days. This is day 3 of 3. I'll jump right into it, though, with a few quick pieces of housekeeping. Big round of applause for the Link 2 team. Karim Noorani is here. Ray Fuentes is here for supporting what we do. Karim's here, run up the podcast. It's what we do at a media house. We have a podcast, create a lot of content. That's all pre-programmed, just like we do here on the stage. And big round of applause for Laguna. We'll hear from Stefan Ross in just a bit as well. But big round of applause for the Laguna and their team that's here. That's here for all their support, all of their support as well. Ozzy the bartender's in back. We got Adrian the chef whipping up lobster rolls yesterday, and I know lobster quesadillas today. Got plenty of vodka drinks and icy frozen drinks in the back. Please stay hydrated out there. It is Austin, Texas that we're here. For those in the live stream, we're in Austin, Texas. It certainly feels like the beginning of the summer. Speaking of Texas and Texans, I'm going to invite another than Roger Dooley, contributor to Forbes, coming up. Roger, I'm going to hand you big round of applause for Roger Dooley to joining us. A lot of nerds as well, just like Eric Christopher. A lot of nerds reading your column. Maybe some geeks too. Now that we define that, courtesy of Ann Ward to open that last panel. Thank you, Ann. So Roger, I'm going to hand this over to you, but I'm going to really quickly invite up for as a courtesy to we'll do an American style. I'll invite up as the MC our panelists, but Miles Bashini, FE Bank. Big round of applause for Miles Bashini, FE Bank, part of very involved in Polygon's ecosystem. A lot of us at Grit Daily and the Grit Daily House know a lot of what Polygon's up to. Stefan Ross, the one and only, coming up. Stefan, big round of applause for Stefan Ross. And last but not least, the wonderful Caitlin Long, Custodia Bank, coming up. Caitlin, big round of applause for Caitlin Long for joining us here today. She'll also be on the main stage during Consensus at the Convention Center. And I can take your bag off. Okay. And I'm going to hand you this mic, Caitlin, and Roger, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. Will do. Thanks, Jordan. And I think we've been kind of sandbagged by the title of this, which is Where to Find Alpha in 2022, which probably a little more challenging in 2022 than perhaps it has been. I guess, does anybody really want to jump in with any insights? We're in such a weird time. Last time I checked today, the Dow was down 800 points. Bitcoin's below 30,000, of course. And where do we start looking for alpha?
That's a deep dive. And then we got inflation at 8.5% according to BLS, right. And Trueflation says 10.7%. Look, this is when alpha is created. And I think we need to keep an eye out where it's being developed. How do we identify where it's being developed? And there are multiple different sources in the community. If you're looking in Web3 for alpha, right? There might be other areas where alpha is created as well, maybe on the physical, traditional stock markets. And I think traditionally in harder times, it's going to be in the more necessity areas, right? What do we really need? Do we really need a second Netflix subscription or Amazon Plus subscription? Or can we do it with something else? So, I don't know. That's... maybe I have a panelist have something else to say.
Caitlin, you have any thoughts to add to that?
It's interesting because, first of all, I don't give investment advice, but I also think that...
None of this is investment advice. We can put in that disclaimer.
I've said for years, price is the least interesting aspect of the Bitcoin world. And, we're in crypto winter, actually. A lot of really good things happen during crypto winter. This is when a lot of building gets done, and a lot of the cruft in the industry gets flushed out. And unfortunately, innocent people get caught by that. I understand that, and that's tragic. But boy, a lot of people learn a lot of lessons, and I bought into the top of the Bitcoin bubble, if you will, of the first cycle back in 2012 through 2014, and sat with losses on my Bitcoin for a while and stuck it out. And there will be a lot of people who have to do the same this time around, but every 4 years it all reloads because there's a natural cycle here due to the halving cycle. We're 2 years away from a halving, and this is a normal cycle. Those of us who've been around it have seen it before. And for the new folks that just got in, stick it out.
Mm-hmm. Is that what translates into fundamentals for something like Bitcoin? In other words, stocks have fundamentals. They have an earnings stream. Obviously, there's expectations about the future that people can't predict. But it seems like many of the various commodities in this space don't have fundamentals. But I guess the halving process and the limits on production and so on would translate into a fundamental. Would that be correct?
Sure, absolutely. And it's not that different than other fundamental analysis for commodities.
But I think that applies specifically to Bitcoin, right, where you have the limitations. Other coins don't necessarily have that limitation. And their fundamentals will apply, but those fundamentals are slightly different. They are developer-related, they're activity, engagement-related, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna anti-answer the question. I think that seeking alpha is typically we're looking for eking out something better from somebody else, and I think this survival is where we're going to find alpha, right? So I don't mean that in a very negative way, but I think this is a time where like some people give up, some people quit, some people say, I think somebody said in the prior panel, I'm going to hang my hat up, it's over with. I think the alpha is going to be those who figure out how to survive properly in this, like focus, stay out of the regulatory fray. There's a lot of areas where those companies who pay attention to what they're doing, or those projects, those are going to be the ones that are going to incrementally survive better than the other ones.
Mm-hmm. I think at this point in the market, the vast majority of people don't really understand what's going on at this conference. They aren't participating in any of the markets. Yesterday, I was here for a little while and talked to two separate startups, both of whom, in different ways, said that their mission was to make some of these things accessible to normal people, by which they weren't necessarily highly technical, weren't an early adopter that really was highly motivated to figure stuff out, and so on. Let's start with you, Miles. How important is that sort of simplification of this whole space?
Well, I mean, the key is when adoption comes, we won't know it because we'll just take it for granted, right? And so that's really the state that we need to get to. And as developers and creators, even that, running a bank, we're trying to figure out how do we make things more frictionless. And even doing those at the institutional level, or doing them, even at the client level, changing the way that someone deposits an asset. And so I think it's, there's thousands of things that we need to do, but it's super important. There's not going to be a watershed event of all of a sudden this crypto thing is easy for everybody and your grandmother can adopt it. It's going to be thousands of little tweaks that those of us that are developing do, and then eventually we're just going to take it for granted like we do our cell phone.
Mm-hmm. Stefan, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, when I first got into Bitcoin, we were a tiny community. Every time we've had a crash or we've had a downfall, we've gone through it's a very volatile market. It's grown each time. Every expansion has resulted in new immigrants entering into the crypto landscape and the Web3 world. And we're now, I'd say, in a DeFi world, or people living really in decentralized land, we're about 20 million strong. And that's really a tiny part of the population. Overall, worldwide, maybe 500 million people actually have, in some form or fashion, some kind of Web3 asset, some token, in whatever form that might be. So we've got a long way to go. But then again, I don't think we need to market to everybody, because I don't think that that's where the growth is going to come from. Certain people are not going to want to ever come into this asset class or be a part of Web3. They'll always be negative about it, and so we don't need to worry about that. But what we do need to do is build a much better user experience than we have today. Mm-hmm. We need to have a user experience that is intuitive. We need to have talent enter into the industry to bring us a user experience, given the complexity that we are dealing with in a decentralized network, with the code base that is very has a lot of room for improvement, with a tooling that is still immature. And those are areas that we all need to invest in to really bring a perfect user experience that will allow the community to then adopt it and have a greater community in it in totality.
I might be a little more optimistic. I recall in the early days of e-commerce talking to a lot of managers who said, yeah, e-commerce is good, but our customers are never going to want to buy online. And then a whole host of companies led by Amazon simplified that process to the point where it's one click and everybody buys online now. Custodia's mission, Caitlin, is in part to bring this to the masses, right? Or is that incorrect?
Yes, our future customers are intended to be only businesses, so not consumers. But one of the things that has surprised me the most after having gotten our charter in October 2020, and of course we're not operating yet, but we're getting close, one of the things that has surprised me the most is how many fintechs and non-crypto companies are interested in our services, because there are so few tech-forward banks in the United States. And because we come from an engineering ethos, that is something that has been significant and is viewed as significant. So even though the fintech world it may or may not be interested in crypto, it's even the parts of the world that are not interested in crypto that are interested in us, and that's the biggest surprise so far.
Mm-hmm. How important is regulation? Because I write about friction, and regulation can add friction, but also anarchy can add friction too. You've had some regulatory challenges.
Yes.
Where do you fall on that spectrum?
You know, it's so interesting. On the panel yesterday, we had a great debate because they curated the panel to have three people who deliberately disagreed with each other. Each of us pretty much agreed with half of what the other was saying, which meant that all three of us had significant areas of disagreement. And one of the most interesting exchanges was when Dante Disparte, who's a longtime friend, and he talked about how Circle just doesn't ask for permission and just goes. And I chimed in and said, we asked for permission, and his response is, where did that get you? And look where we are. So, look, I mean, that's a challenge, right? Because the regulators are talking out of both sides of their mouth. They want us to get regulated, and those of us who try have not broken through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but also, I think the regulatory environment is going through a set of challenges on their side as well. You've got two different offices that are trying to compete against each other to own and govern and regulate Web3. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm trying to constantly remind myself I have to call it Web3 now. But yeah.
You don't have to.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, yeah, so they want to get crypto. They want to have a control over crypto. You got the SEC on the one hand. You have the CFTC on the other hand.
I think your question about will regulation help or not help. In our business, I see many people who would be interested in entering the market that have some kind of a fiduciary responsibility. And if the choices they have today, if I'm going to invest company funds or endowment funds or something into crypto, am I going to do that in like this unlicensed DeFi protocol? They probably can't make that step right now. So having those types of products inside of a bank where they can lower the risk associated with their fiduciary decisions, I think that's going to make a big difference. And so we need to get all of the value that's coming out of crypto in great things like DeFi protocols generating yield. Let's get those into the financial institutions where a lot more people can enter that would be afraid, frankly, they are afraid to enter. And so we see that as a huge opportunity, as saying, hey, this is really good technology, it's evolved a lot, but now let's put it into an environment where more people who have a responsibility over those funds can invest.
Mm-hmm. How far away are we from a digital dollar?
Well, it's funny you should ask, because the Fed has had Custodia's business plan for a digital dollar issued by a bank for now more than 2 years, 2 years and 1 month. And you see what the situation is. And for those of you who don't know, we filed suit against the Fed on Tuesday.
Why did you? Can you share? How did you file? I don't want that.
Well,
that's interesting.
we applied. We got our charter in. I'll stick to the facts. Obviously, I can't speak to the lawsuit, but I'll stick to the facts. We applied. We got our charter in our bank charter, full-fledged bank charter onshore in the United States, not in Puerto Rico, in October 2020. Applied for our Fed master account, which is a bank account that only banks can have at the Fed, specifically only depository institutions can have at the Fed, in October 2020. And then we also went so far as to apply to become a Fed member bank. We're the only novel bank that has ever done that. There are other novel banks who have gotten master accounts from the Fed, but none of them ever became member banks. What does that mean? It means that we've applied to become directly regulated by the Fed. So to put the puzzle pieces together, we've been waiting for an answer from the Fed for 19 months. We did literally everything right, up the middle of the fairway. The state of Wyoming, going back to 2018, worked with the Federal Reserve. Senator Lummis disclosed they had more than 100 meetings with the Federal Reserve to create this new type of bank charter that would service this industry. And here we are 4 years later, and we're getting the Heisman. So I candidly, when you talk about the digital dollar, the Federal Reserve has had the opportunity to greenlight that. This was not done in a vacuum. It was a 4-year process in the making between the new type of charter, the rules that were put out for public comment twice. There's a 752-page supervisory exam manual for these new type of bank charters that was done in conjunction with Promontory, which is one of the big bank consulting firms. Okay, and then the first ones get chartered and knock on the door and then halt. And that's what happened. So to specifically answer your question, a bank-issued digital dollar could have already been out there had the Federal Reserve green-lighted it. This has been on their in their inbox in a manner in which they are absolutely familiar, because this is a 4-year long consultative process that has preceded that application. Okay, and I will be blunt and say that some of the fraud and scams that have happened in stablecoins would have been prevented had bank regulators made a decision faster.
That sounded like your good opening statement.
But I think that, I mean, how expensive was that, right? And how the barriers to entry to get into the banking space are just so prohibitive pursuing that round, right? I mean, it's just really challenging for anybody to do that.
And yet they say they want us to all get regulated. Someone goes right up the middle of the fairway and complies with every single rule and tries to get regulated, and you see where it stands.
Right. Well, the first paper currencies were issued by banks, right? So why not the first digital currency? Is Puerto Rico a significant location for legal reasons?
I mean, we did a market study in 2017, spent time and money and effort to look at jurisdictions around the world, looked in Europe, looked in the U.S., and we just chose Puerto Rico because there was many advantages to being there. Number one is the regulator gave us a charter. We're in a similar situation, but not the same. Like, we've applied for a Fed account, and it's taking its sweet time. But you know, we haven't sued the Fed, so. But you know, we're fully operating. We're regulated. We're just taking a different approach to making it happen. But you know, there's tax advantages of being in Puerto Rico. There's what I call the Venn diagram of services. So we belong to Visa Latin American Caribbean as a principal issuer. If we belong to Visa Inc., we would have different rules we'd have to apply to. So there's a lot of interesting benefits. Puerto Rico is a Commonwealth of the United States, so all federal regulations in regards to BSA, AML, KYC, all the regs that you want to line up, they all apply to us, right? So it has not been a barrier. It's actually been a benefit to our business so far.
Mm-hmm. Stefan, you've operated and continue to operate around the globe. What countries seem to be doing a better job, do you think, than the U.S., if any? Like, where are the hotspots that are hotspots in a positive way?
I mean, I was surprised. I moved here from Hong Kong, Asia. China's definitely not doing it right, or has got its own way of doing it. And a lot of the entrepreneurs, the Chinese entrepreneurs, have left offshore. Dubai is definitely an attractive hub for all things crypto at the moment right now. But these vary, right? They change based on the flavor of the month and within the framework that they're happy with, right? But I do think that what amazed me when I moved here was the fact that I couldn't access half the DeFi services that I was so used to, and all of that innovation is happening away offshore. And that innovation is where jobs are created, where that wealth is created, where value is added and contributed to any economy. And those economies are now moving onto a blockchain specifically, not anymore tied to a physical location, They're all based on Ethereum, based on Algorand, Avalanche. Wherever you go, that's where innovation is happening. And if they're not on a physical jurisdiction, on a land, then they're happening globally, decentralized. And I think that's where we're seeing new jobs being created and new wealth being created.
Yeah, so small financial markets are approaching this more aggressively because they're looking for economic development, right? So if you look at Gibraltar, where I was stationed for 10 years, they built a DLT legislation. If you look now, there's a lot of big companies registering there because they're seeking alpha. They're trying to find that jurisdiction where they can at least have regulatory cover. It may not be a total solution, but Gibraltar is a good example. I mean, places like Estonia, which I wouldn't say is the best license in the world, but they're making an effort to create a framework to attract economic development. And so, the U.S. should figure that out. That this is an opportunity. And I think it's going to take some time. I think we're still looking at another year or two minimum until we see some real regulation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like Estonia has been an innovator in a lot of digital stuff. I mean, it helps when you're small and nimble, I suppose, and can move quickly. And Wyoming, too, is kind of an interesting choice. It would not have been the most logical high-tech state choice, but obviously it's been fruitful for your company.
Well, related to what we were just talking about, there's not a large banking industry in the state of Wyoming. And so to the extent that the banking industry has a, shall we say, influence over the regulatory process, it didn't exist in Wyoming. And it was a bipartisan effort, and most of especially the early bills, especially the ones related to the new bank charter, passed with a veto-proof majority. And the banking industry, of course, opposed it. In fact, they called me a terrorist in an open legislative committee. And this was 2018. It was January 2018. So think about that, right? We'd just come through the previous bubble, and so the ethos of the perception out there among the mainstream was that we were all kind of what the internet was in the early 90s, right? Drug dealers and porn and gamblers and any sort of dark web concept, right? And so they slapped me with the terrorist label, and I just laughed. But they weren't able to get it killed in Wyoming, and that makes a big difference. To your point, Wyoming has been very nimble. There are now 29 different laws in 5 legislative sessions that have been passed by the blockchain group in Wyoming, bipartisan. It's actually led by a Democrat right now. It was started by a Republican back then, and the state absolutely has been nimble and very responsive to this industry.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. I think we're just about wrapped up. Miles, you have anything you want to finish with?
I would say that everybody should keep their heads up. I mean, I know we're in this kind of macro down market across the board, but I've been involved with crypto since around 2013, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. I mean, walk into this convention and it's like sardine can. So I would say, keep your head up, and the innovation's happening. I mean, I know my team, we're working every single day to make this a better environment, and it's going to change. Web3 will exist in a real way.
Mm-hmm. Stefan?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what much to add. We didn't talk too much about alpha here, but
no.
I think, I'll say what I said in my opening statement is really just, alphas will be created out of this environment. And I think we're going to be cleaning out the less quality, and we'll highlight the quality. And I personally am a big proponent of non-custodial services where we use the blockchain as the custody. Because I think we don't need to go through a 4-year navigation that then results in being called a terrorist.
Not your keys, not your coins. The most important lesson I learned, and a lot of folks unfortunately probably have to learn that lesson the hard way, just like I did. And I thought about it as cheap tuition back then when I lost money at Mount Gox. Not much, but boy, that was tuition well paid to learn a very important lesson, and hopefully everyone has learned it before they lose money this time.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Let's hear it for our panelists.
FV Bank. Stefan Ross, Laguna, and another big round of applause for Caitlin Long from Custodia for joining us. We're going to continue with our programming. Caitlin, you're going to join Stefan Ross and pop into the very ice cold podcast studio. We can promise you that. We have a panel coming right up. Jen Sanasi from CoinDesk TV is here with us, along with Greg Gopman from Anchor. You can make your way off the stage and just pop your mics on your seats. Stefan, we're going to get you a nice ice cold drink, and then we'll have you up here, but just for a little bit longer. We'll get you nice and frozen first. We're going to get you nice and cold, and then we'll have you back up here for the next panel and give you just a minute. Yeah, that'd be great if we can get Stefan Ross a popsicle. Yes. Come on. No, Stefan is with us here on stage. Yes, so you go with Caitlin, please. And yes. Great. Welcome to Grit Daily House, creating a lot of content. Some of the top speakers from Consensus Main Stage with Chris Giancarlo, CFTC chairman. The man with the plan was here yesterday. You just heard from Caitlin Long, Custodia Bank. I'm keeping an eye on the crowd here. We just heard from Miles Pacini from FV Bank. Big round of applause for Miles for making it his way to the media stage. FV Bank and their contribution to the stage. Christian Dixon's here with Veritone, along with Jen Sanasi from CoinDesk TV. Jen, we're going to have you up in just a minute for a quick whip panel. These are the right kind of speakers to have for that type of panel. If you've seen this crew up there before, that does include Stefan. So when Stefan's ready, we'll recoil him back. Let's make sure he stays nice and cool, and he has a nice cold drink to work with from his team. Get this man a beverage, a nice cold beverage, if at all possible, and get you right back up here. So I'm going to roll right into that, Jen. I'm seeing some head nods, so I'm going to invite you right up. Are you ready? Or you want to go off-road, or you want to take the... Mike, this second one here. Yes, great. And do a little bit of an introduction. Big round of applause for CoinDesk and their team, including Jen Sanasi. Big round of applause for CoinDesk, for all those out there in the audience here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Jen, I'm going to turn it right over to you here. That should be on. All these mics are hot.
Testing. Hello, everyone.
Test
Just like
works
the rest
out.
of us. We're all very hot right now.
Plenty warm. It's Austin, Texas in the summer, so no surprises here. Any of y'all Texans out there? They're all at home in their own personal city. So if you're joining us from the live stream, we're here at Grit Daily House, official Consensus media stage here at Consensus Festival here in Austin, Texas, the heat of the summer. Jen, I'm going to turn it right over to you. I'm going to set this mic down this way so you have a quicker start and invite up your panelists.
Yeah, for sure. I'm ready. Great. All right. Hello, everyone. We are going to be talking about how not to invest in crypto today. So I'm sure you've been hearing a lot of people talking about how to invest. We're taking it the other way. I'm going to invite all of my panelists up here to join me. First, we have Christian Dixon from Veritone. It's like you're on a game show. Woo! On The Price is Right. We have Greg Gopman from Anchor. Woo! And Stefan Ross from Laguna. Welcome back up. Yeah, it's a little cozy.
There you go. Keep it tight.
You got it?
You got to be on the camera.
All right. So, like I said in our little intro here, we are talking about how not to invest in crypto. Now, before we get into that, I'm going to give each one of my panelists just a quick second to introduce themselves so you all know what they do and where they come from as we get into this delectable topic. Stefan, let's start with you.
Thank you. Stefan Ross, founder and CEO of Laguna Labs. Yeah, I've been in Bitcoin since 2012. Long story. I was the CEO of Bitcoin.com and just felt that after the 2020 sort of COVID breakout that government's printing money, we needed to find a better way to protect the purchasing power. Inflation was coming. We saw that luckily 2 years ago or forecasted it and built for that, and timing is pretty good. So we're lucky to do that and building DeFi ecosystem around that.
Awesome.
Nothing like following an intro like that one. Christian Dixon from Veritone. I help to lead the strategy side for the Web3 and Metaverse for Veritone, which is an AI-based company working with media content, media entertainment companies, brands, and so forth. Our focus is to help make sure the Web3 and FT space that we're building ourselves into is focused on the right type of nurturing of the content, the community. The utility is a huge part of that, and making sure what our AI does helps to improve that and not de-escalate it.
So I have the brawns, he has the brains.
I don't know what that makes me, but let's find out. I'm the heart. I'm the heart.
Oh, that's the most important.
So, my name is Greg Ottman. I'm the Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer at Anchor. Anchor provides developer tools to the industry and tools for blockchains to help their blockchains run better. So we're most known probably for our RPC service. We're partnered with Binance and Polygon and 17 of the biggest chains you would know, and we run their nodes and their blockchains and help it run faster so it works better. We make a better Web3 for everybody through Anchor. I also run a consultancy called Moon, where we help projects moon their projects, whatever it needs. It's always different for different token projects. We do it in the right way. And I've been in the space since 2017. I started a project called Akash, another infrastructure company on the Cosmos network. And it's been a great ride. I'm excited to go full crypto, full time from here out.
Woo! All right, let's get started. So, Stefan, I want to start with you. We are in a bear cycle, or headed towards a bear market. We've just come out of a bull cycle. What's the biggest challenge, you would say, for people who are looking to get started with investing in crypto? And we can talk about retail investors or institutional, you choose.
Wow. Yeah, I think it's the selection. I mean, somebody was saying it on a panel earlier where I think the key thing is to really just focus on dollar cost averaging. I mean, we have this term DCA. How do we dollar cost average into some of the bigger coins? That's where I would focus on. And then what are the gems that are looking to transpire out of this winter, and then how do I get in early? I think what Anchor's doing is awesome. I have coins, I hold coins, and I want to earn rewards on the coins I hold, and I do that when I stake them to proof-of-stake networks. So that way you're earning passively in the coins you love, that if they were sitting in a Coinbase, you wouldn't be earning anything, and if they were sitting in a wallet, you wouldn't be earning anything. So lots of different opportunities there.
I must mention before we go any further, don't wait for me to ask a question. If you have something to add and someone is speaking, please do feel free to jump in. I think as we head into this next bear cycle, we have this new shiny object and term called Web3 that encapsulates the metaverse and NFTs, and there are metaverse tokens, and there's all this fun stuff that wasn't around in 2017. How do you guys think this is adding to the narrative when it comes to how investors are thinking about crypto?
I think it opens up a new realm of investors and a new cachet, a new belief in the industry, I would say. When it was just crypto is like, as close to Ponzi-nomics as you can say, right? But Web3 is a term that encapsulates us being an industry and having new verticals of that industry that touch and eat other industries. If they said software was eating the world, I would say Web3 is eating software for the future of it, right? And so with that NFTs and DAOs and all these things that come into what we now represent as an industry, as opposed to 2017 when a lot of us got in, or crypto was happening, and it's not just like a Bitcoin or token price anymore. It's a lot more to it.
Yeah, and just to add from that, agreed on the investor side, I think what we are also doing is we're providing a lot more difficult market research, which can pull out a lot of the investors who are just dumping in money, and it makes for smart investments, which is a big process when it comes down to putting the right money in the right places. Additionally, from our side, the AI team we're focusing on is how do we reduce the cost of mining or node farming or whatever it may be using energy-focused AI practices for the farming companies. There's a lot of cost that goes along with that. Even if there's technology out there that's trying to reduce that cost and focus on the neutral footprint or a carbon positive footprint, there's still a lot of cost and energy usage associated with that. So as we focus on those things, or apply utility to things that are focused on before design or imprinting just, like the tokenomics basics of this is just a coin or this is just an image and you can own it, is how do I put something into that that's valuable for the consumer but also for the companies and the people around it.
So just on that note, I just, energy costs, right? I was just out last night. I mean, ETH2 is coming. It's moving from a proof of work environment into a proof of stake environment. And one of the conversations was the fact that the energy consumption has dropped from in like a sort of mid-tier top country supporting the Ethereum network down to like a Palau Island energy consumption in that shift. Is that something you're involved in, or do you focus more on proof of stake or proof of work?
Our company is not focusing on either the one on the actual farming side. What we're focused on is helping the companies that are doing this, that are doing the farming themselves, that do want to get to, whether it's a tax benefit for doing it a certain way, or they want to reduce the consumption from carbon fossil fuels. It's actually taking it to where we can store it, use weather patterns for solar panels or wind turbines, because our stuff started on grid systems and now focusing on these massive companies with server rooms, scaling a warehouse or multiple warehouses, and how they're taking that energy, not buying or buying when the right time is right, to maximize the benefit to the energy companies when need be, but also minimizing the cost and the impact of the environment.
And so I think that's a great example of how you can now be a Web3 company as someone who services the industry, as opposed to a crypto company, which is just going to make eyes roll and probably turn a lot of investors away, like Goldman Sachs people and whatnots. Like, they don't want to be a part of a crypto company, but as an industry, being a Web3 provider sounds cool.
It definitely has a flashy part about it, and it's great for marketing and everything. And as we're talking about how not to buy, I think a big part of this is what are the companies, or what are the actual currencies or tokenomics of things to focus on. And I think a big part of that is what are they doing and how are they doing it, and focusing on those aspects.
Yeah, I think what we've learned in this industry over the years is that the projects that are around today may not be around tomorrow. And I'm curious what advice you would give when it comes to creating an investment strategy from a brand perspective or a retail perspective. There's so many projects out there that are promising the world, but when you're creating a good, diversified strategy, where do you start?
Execution. I mean, can the team execute? Can they deliver on the promises? And that's really time will tell. So, don't ape in all in one go. Follow them, track them, maintain, invest a little bit, put in a little more. I mean, that's the way to do it. And if they can execute and deliver on their promises, then that's encouraging. I think that's the big thing.
I think the one point I would make on execution is there's such a culture around anonymity and pseudonymity in the space, and so it's hard to know who is going to deliver and who is who. I think we recently found out that Do Kwon had a project similar to UST that had a similar fate to UST under a pseudonymous name, and how was anyone to know? What are your perspectives on the anonymous culture of crypto?
Yeah, so how not to invest. I'd say my 3 or couple biggest tips, if that was the question. One, I would say most of the times your anon teams are less likely to succeed than your non-anon teams, because you don't know if they're going to stick with it. So that's probably don't invest in anon teams as a rule of thumb. Doesn't mean all anon teams are uninvestable. It means, your odds are lower. I would say also don't invest on emotion. Most of my emotional trades have just not worked out, even if it's buying or selling. If I am in such a rush to go and buy a thing and do a thing, and I can't at least wait a day, I am an awful trader and an awful day trader. So you should also, from my perspective, there's that Warren Buffett quote, which is markets are made to separate people with don't have patience from their money, something like that. I'm butchering it, but basically, don't be a day trader. You will get crushed in these markets. Be a long-term holder of a good project, and I guess if it does go up dramatically, you should probably sell or take some off the table, because eventually everything comes in cycles, and so you want to have something not on there.
I think there's also something that was said earlier, and maybe it was Stefan that brought it up, but when you're looking at having maybe like a Sherpa to take you through the research, someone who's in the industry to understand what's actually happening here. If you're going to put your money, whether it's in a company or it's a crypto itself or whatever it may be, having the understanding there is critical. And another Warren Buffett concept is do your research, make sure it has something. Even if it's down, doesn't mean it's not there, because they're still working on it. It has some value there. It's just not where people think it is. The mass economy coming in and saying this is not worth something, but eventually if there is something there, it will grow, it'll become something, and not following just the trend cycle of what everyone else thinks, but knowing what's actually there.
But also I do think we have, and this industry was created by anons. Satoshi Nakamoto, we don't know who they, him, her are, right? And so remember, we are, you know, unless you're like Caitlin Long that can handle being called a terrorist by the federal government, you know, there are not many people that can handle that. They don't want to handle that, and they want to remain anonymous as they're building out something that's competing and disrupting a highly powerful institution. And so there is a way, we do still need to support some of these anonymous developers to be able to protect them. I think it's really important to do your own research and find out who they actually are. And they have street cred. They are online. You can follow their history and find out who they are. So just be careful when you deal with anons. But there is a reason why this industry has been working with anons. I mean, one of the key things why is they don't want to pay taxes, right? And so that's also been another reason.
Well, I think the right anon is when you're doing something that might be illegal or pushing up against legalities of an industry, and you need like to move innovation forward. I understand the need to be anon there, right? But then you have this other side of the anon. You know, I think like the 0x Maki maybe is a pretty good side, where this guy like did a vampire attack. He launched a competitor to another major thing that was out there. He had a large portion of the tokens. No one knew who he was. Everyone was really excited from the industry for the project. The project was going well. And then he just sold all of his tokens and crushed the price like 80% and left. And everyone was like, what the? And he was gone. And then someone found out who he was. And then he had to give the money back. And he was like, oh, I just was like in an anxiety attack that day or some shit. I don't know. And now he's like an okay public figure, but he started Anon. And so like, you know.
But they did catch him.
Yeah, they caught him.
I mean, it's all transparent.
Money from
it's all
people
visible.
in the industry. They're going to get you.
You can find out who and they even caught the guy. I mean, they found the guy who did the DAO hack, right? So it comes back and haunts you. It's just a matter of time. And how willing are you as an anon to suffer that stress to go through that for the rewards? I mean, most of the hacks actually, they settle under the table, right? Yeah, right. And so. Why? Because they know they'll come and get you at some point. And
you can't hide from the world.
Exactly. You can't hide from the world, and you can't hide from the blockchain, right? Because in essence, I'll just follow the wallet numbers. They even found the hack on Bitfinex, right?
Yeah,
the couple.
That's exactly it.
From a centralized exchange.
And in this industry, as soon as funds are hacked, like we know where they are. There are so many things that can happen to that money, and we've so often seen that there's often nothing that can happen with that money. I saw you had your mic up there, Christian. Did you want to add before we move on?
I was just going to say it's similar to what I consider the Musk effect, where they go in and they do some really big purchasing or moving around, and then they do something else dramatic to the opposite degree, and it has a huge impact to everyone, but it's one entity, one person that does that. So we're seeing it on the anon versus non-anon. You know, when we're doing that as enterprise and big businesses don't want to, it's all trust-based. So, and whether it's you have the product, but do I trust you? Do I have the relationship with you? They need to feel that for them to feel comfortable. And I think it goes down to, you can go up to government with that, but I think really in the enterprise side, when you get businesses involved, not just consumers, you have to be able to show some value and trust. And
so this might be a little bit farther down the rabbit hole for you guys, but there's some really interesting like community auditing firms now in the space. So there's this one called RugDoc, which is pretty cool. So there are all these farms that were happening last year, and all these anon teams would make the farms, and people would put money in the farms, and they would never be able to get them out, and millions of dollars stolen on a daily basis. And so this weird website, RugDoc.io, started, and they were a community full of people that started auditing the smart contracts on all these random farms and letting people know how safe they were based on them. And so that was pretty cool. So like a way not to invest. Don't invest in like Web3 website properties for farming that you don't know are safe. That would be another good way to not to use your money.
I do have to say, I know we're talking about how not to invest, but sometimes shit coins and meme coins are so fun.
Great. They're great.
You have to be honest about
Oh my God!
that.
If Doge could do it, anyone could do it, right? The whole industry is based on community, and if the community supports it, anything can happen.
Yeah, just and go ahead.
It's a separation of entertainment versus
Exactly.
finances. So if you're looking to be a serious investor, and do you want to mix the two? You can have your fun still. There's no need to be boring all life, but you can still make sure if you're really looking to invest or how not to invest, make sure you're focusing.
The most real thing in the world is a lottery ticket. And everyone who doesn't, have money or have a way out of where they're going is they want an opportunity. And for a lot of people, crypto is that opportunity these days. It's not the scratch-offs that it used to be. It's the Dogecoin and the meme coin and some random things their friend tells them about that's like mowing their lawn. He's like, oh, I'm going to do it, How do I buy it? And then they get into the industry that way. And, that part of the industry is as real as the real part, too, I feel like.
Yeah, we got to start wrapping it up, but the last thing I want to ask you, we spoke so much about trust. And I think when you're looking to get into something, you look to the entities that your community has put trust in. And that is often mainstream media, that is often government. And we've seen a lot of narratives about the industry that come from these sources not always be completely accurate. So what I want to hear from each one of you as we wrap this up is if I want to do my own research, I want to get into crypto during this bear cycle, I want to be successful when we hit the next bear market, where do I start to do my own research?
I am a huge fan of, there's like Telegram groups and YouTube channels of great influencers, but I really like the Telegram groups like the Daily Hodl or the Daily Ape, where they just go over all the most relevant news of the industry and give you like a bunch of links to it. And that's the best way to stay. There's so much stuff going on. I love that. One more caveat to that is do not trust sponsored posts from the websites. Cointelegraph is great, and it's very hard to get an article in Cointelegraph, but you can get a sponsored post. You can get anything you want as a sponsored post. So always look to see if things are sponsored, whether it's Bloomberg, this site, that site. It's not the same authority.
Also, CoinDesk is great. I mean, throw that out there, Christian.
CoinDesk is the best.
There's so many things to unpack on that. It's amazing. It's amazing. I would say, adding on top of your digital research, find or build your own community. Take the time, if you're really going to do this, find someone who's passionate about it, be in person, talk about it, do research together. What we're doing here right now is a concept of that. A lot of these things that everyone's building here come together with people that start talking about an idea and how that idea flourishes, and that's what I think a community really becomes and how you can really make the most on. If you're going to do this, take the time and get together with people who care.
Stefan?
We've talked about all the resources. There's YouTube, the Telegram groups, and it's word of mouth, right? So community, you get the word of mouth, you get influence. But yeah, I think programmable money, which Bitcoin and crypto has become, is a fast-moving consumer product. And as a result, it is very trend-driven. We've gone through a number of trends in these last 2-3 years. What's the next trend? And put your pulse out there, do the research, join these groups and learn where that is, and then join the ride. Buckle up first.
And always only invest what you can afford to lose.
100%.
Thank you so much. That was so insightful, and even I think a lot of people in our audience maybe are well versed in the crypto industry, but it's always nice to have a little reminder because it's very easy to FOMO into these things when everyone's doing it. So thank you so much.
We're all builders, by the way, right? So we're all building products, so we're immersed in the industry, and so that gives us a bit of an advantage. And I think it's really important to create and build. So continue to do that versus just look at it from a pure investment standpoint.
Well said.
One more thing. This might not be like good investment advice, but I do think there's a culture to this thing. And
Gotta wrap it up. Gotta wrap it up.
Yeah, well, just like as an investor, I think it should be like a fun thing for you, like to invest in crypto in a way. Like being part of these communities is like its own tribe of like unity. It's really cool.
Thank you, guys.
Right on. Bye.
She's a busy woman and made sure and was super respectful to come see us. She's right back on set at the convention center, so see us there. One more big round of applause for Laguna's Stefan Ross, Christian Dixon, and Greg Gottman for joining us for this panel. Thanks again. We'll be back at 4:30. There'll be a last panel of the day here in Austin, Texas. Consensus Festival. We have Japanese media here at the Media House. CNN Turkey has been by, CNBC, obviously CoinDesk, Cointelegraph. That's what we do here. back. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jordan French, executive editor, founder at Grit Daily News, based in New York. Won some awards for our coverage. Covered over 10,000 startups. At Grit Daily, we're part of the Apple News Syndicate. A little trivia on Grit Daily, Apple News Syndicate. Apple, they're really good to us. About 250 outlets that are part of it. A lot of well-known names in there. And we're in there for coverage. You probably see some pings on your phone. If you have an iPhone, it comes preloaded. I like to describe it as mandatory. Apple's really good at keeping its monopoly in place and pushing stuff out there to the degree that's good for us from a content standpoint. Speaking of content, I have a little bit of bonus stuff for you before the next panel at 4:30 with Katie Canales from Business Insider, Ito Sofer from Zengo. We'll see them a little bit later after this, along with Stefan Ross and then with Laguna, and then also Karim Narani from Link2. On to the bonus content. Jeff Hunter is here with us, Entrepreneur Magazine. He's here with Web3 Joseph Lazakin. That's a mouthful. Joseph Lazakin, Web3 Games. Jeff Hunter, I'm going to invite you right up to the stage. Come on up. And I'm going to hand you this mic so that you can take it away with Joseph. Thanks. Big round of applause for Jeff Hunter for joining us.
All right. Well, Joseph, who is now going to be limping his way onto the stage. So, funny story. Joseph and I met, I guess it was many years ago at a Forbes Under 30 event. And I'm obviously not under 30 anymore. You still are, though, right?
Yep, 29.
Yeah, he's 29. He's got a year. But Joseph is a crazy guy, in a way. He's limping around here because he's practicing for a space jump. So personally, myself, I've never skydived or anything like that. He's practicing. He's skydiving a lot. And had a little bit of an accident. Parachute, I guess, failed at about 40 feet above the ground, and he landed on the asphalt and broke a little bit of his leg. And it's in a spot where, they can't really fix it. So here we are. But the show must go on. So here we are. Today's panel is going to be pretty fun and short. Joseph and I have been working in the crypto gaming space for quite some time, and we find that there's a lot of issues in the crypto gaming space. One of it, the biggest one, is tokenomics. Really having the proper burning mechanisms, having reward structures. And Joseph has a game studio who actually is producing 3 different games right now. They're developing 3 games. One of them is pretty much done, and you're having the mint, I think, in like 5 days. 5 days, called Dash League. So dashleague.io is his. And why don't you tell everybody why the heck you wanted to go into it in the first place?
So the reason why we wanted to get into gaming, we just saw a really interesting opportunity to be able to solve a really big problem in the actual blockchain space, which was actually focusing on the tokenomics first and being able to introduce really innovative concepts and then paving the way for other game creators to be able to get into the scene by showcasing how you can actually use crypto to be able to fund your game idea.
And for those of you who don't know a whole lot about crypto gaming, it's really taken the world by storm, and especially overseas in developing countries. We have people that have literally quit their jobs to play crypto games, and some of the speakers before us talked about metaverse workers, which is a really interesting concept, which I know Joseph is working on a guild system to where people can actually, like us, who have capital, can invest in and actually purchase these NFTs, these characters in the game. It's kind of a dungeon crawler, kind of like a what would you call it? There's a lot of them, but maybe Diablo is what people think of the most. But it's not exactly like that. But you can find weapons, and tell them about what the game looks like. Like, what can they do in there?
Yeah, so it's like an it's like an old school RPG game. That's kind of like it's kind of mixed between like Diablo and maybe Zelda back in the day, and it has it to where it's all AI generated maps. Everything in the game is completely AI generated, allows for you to be able to have it to where it's infinite gameplay. When you combine that with the metaverse, that also allows for you to open up some really exciting opportunities, like how you were talking about employing tons of people around the world to be able to actually play this game and actually having it to where we can create a really unique economy. And then we also solved a lot of the major problems that actually exist in gaming to where we can actually keep things stable while paying people to play the game.
All right, well, that's a perfect transition into our final little discussion here, because I think this is something that I know you're very interested about. There's some people here in the audience that are very involved in the space. If you have been in crypto long enough, you have lost money, right? Especially if you've invested in crypto games. I think, Axie Infinity, you have a Peg Axie, you have all these games that have had some pretty rough demises because they haven't had any counter-inflationary measures. They haven't had really a reinvestment surge into the game. And then, of course, what they do is they say, oh, you know what? We're giving too much rewards. The value of the token's going down. Then what they do is they just say, oh, we're just going to make the rewards less. And then, of course, more people are like, well, why would I invest into the game? Because I'm getting less rewards. And Joseph came up with a very creative way to implement some solutions. Why don't you tell him a little bit about some of your creative ideas to solve that problem?
So what we ended up doing is that we ended up taking what worked really well with Olympus DAO, Wonderland, and some of the other DAO-based concepts where you end up exchanging a stablecoin such as USDC or USDT for the token in the form of debt. By being able to do that, that builds a treasury that actually backs the value of the actual currency as a baseline. And then from there, the actual game has it to where the burn mechanics allow for us to be able to actually decrease the supply of tokens. So the actual backing per token consistently increases. So we've actually created something that's very akin to a perma-bull token. So there's always a decreasing supply with a larger amount of value being added to it daily. So as a result, the price of the actual token will continuously increase versus being diluted, which is pretty much what every game does right now. They constantly give emissions, and as a result, that constantly devalues everybody's holdings, makes it less valuable for players and scholars to be able to play. But we've been able to solve that, and we've actually turned that into a modular kit to allow any gamer who we actually end up building games for to be able to actually use the exact same system.
That's interesting. Guys, thank you so much. Let's give a big round of applause for Joseph Liskin here. And if you don't know, follow this guy because he has the most amazing, interesting stories online. Even your post about you breaking your leg and just looking at he's been fitted now for a spacesuit. This guy is the most committed person I've ever met. Like, this guy is absolutely going to space, and I have no doubt about it.
Appreciate it. It'll be between July 8th and July 14th, depending on if I get cleared.
All right, we'll make sure you guys get his contact information. If you're more interested, if you want to learn more about Joseph, we'll make sure to have the link. Follow us, Grit Daily. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
applause. Yes, one more big round of applause. Where are they? Let me see that again. Let me see the front of that. There he is, the man with the plan. Web3 Games. Web3 Games. Yeah, Joseph Lazakin. He was at Traffic and Conversion Summit. This man, were you a speaker there? What were you doing there? The speaker at Traffic and Conversion Summit. We're a media partner to Traffic and Conversion Summit. That's how we know. Where was that again? Where was that? San Diego. Thank you. We love contributions from the audience here. I love doing Q&As. Like when I moderate, I love Q&As. I'm like, where's the walking mic? Or Slido. Any Slido fans here? Anyone know what Slido is? It's this little technology team. They try to solve this problem of like, well, what if there's questions in the audience? What do you do? What they do, they actually rank. I'm going to market them. They rank questions, and they're displayed on a screen, so picture that. And then you can upvote, if you have the Slido app, which question should be asked. So after I do like my routine with my panelists, I turn to Slido for the democratic Q&A. It's a great tool. So Slido fan here. If I'm the only one, I'm okay with that. Living my best life unapologetically. Jeff Hunter here, entrepreneur. One more big round of applause for Jeff Hunter. Made his way. Nice little fireside chat here. Ozzy the bartender back there. This is the last panel. Big round of applause for Ozzy. Keeping us cool the last 3 days. Frozen drinks. Literally keeping us alive. Karim Noorani's here. He's going to be up in this next panel. Big round of applause for Link 2 team. And Karim Ray Fuentes is here. Darren is here on that team. They've been creating a lot of content here. It's a marathon of content. It's our 25th panel, I believe. We've had over 20, 25. Where's Sebastian? How many podcast episodes? Probably 25, 26 podcast episodes. That's what you do here at a media house. We are really big round of applause also for CoinDesk and CoinDesk team for putting on Consensus Festival and letting us run their media stage, not any other outlet other than Grit Daily to run their official media stage. That's what this is, and that is where you are. Speaking of media, we do something a little bit different than other media houses. You probably have heard of that before. Generally, we create a lot of content out of ours. We also welcome other media outlets to the stage. Right? We do that at South by. Some of those that don't necessarily have a home. The Nomads at the Business Insider Mafia, one of which is none of the Katie Canales, who is here from Business Insider. She's up. So, Katie, if you're ready, I'm going to call you up to this stage so that you can take it away. Come. Insider. It's our ultimate panel. That means our last panel for the day 3 here, Consensus Festival Media Stage. Katie, I'm going to hand you this microphone and then let you invite up your panelists and have a good time. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Like Jordan said, this is the last panel of the day, so everyone grab a drink and get ready for the last panel. But going to invite the panelists up. Stefan Ross. All right. There we go. Come on up. Here we go. Ido Sofair. Yeah, come on up. Karim Noorani. All right. So Stefan and Karim have been here all day. But Stefan is the CEO of Laguna, building an inflation-proof ecosystem. Karim, as Jordan was mentioning, is Chief Strategy Officer at Linkto. But Ido, this is his first panel of the day, so I'm going to let him intro himself and tell everyone a little bit about himself.
All right, thank you. I'm very excited to be here. So nice to meet you, everybody. I'm Ido. I'm from Zengo. Zengo is right over there. You can see that. Yeah, and there. So Zengo is a non-custodial crypto wallet. I would dare to say currently the most secure Web3 wallet out there. Now, I'll say 2 words about that. If you know Fireblocks, probably most of you know Fireblocks. So they use MPC technology. And that technology, I mean, only institutions, large institutions, had this privilege until now to have this kind of security. And Zengo brings that to the retail, to all of us. And that makes it a whole new standard of security. We have a couple of hundreds of thousands of users, growing very fast. Also through the bear market, and it's super exciting times for us. And so that's a bit of us, and we'll talk about it later. And I'm, just to say, I have the privilege of being the VP of Business and Strategy in Zengo.
Awesome. All right.
I just downloaded the wallet, by the way. So if you haven't downloaded it,
get it right now.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
2 new installs.
There it is. All right, y'all. So last panel of the day, we're talking about the crypto market bubble. Assuming everyone here and possibly everyone in town at this festival probably has the same answer, but this much speculated upon crypto bubble, are we in one? What does that mean? What's going to happen? There's a lot of chatter that, yes, we are in a bubble. It's going to burst. There are trillions invested in the Web3 space globally. The finance and the business worlds are jumping on the bandwagon. It's been a rough 6 months. Last month especially. There was a major disruption in the market. Prices plummeted. And even, Andreessen Horowitz, they said we're heading into a crypto winter. So like I said, I'm sure I know what y'all's answers are going to be, but do you think we're seeing the usual signs of a traditional financial bubble, or do you think this is a typical hiccup in the market, that's known for its volatility?
So in the crypto world, I definitely think there's volatility, always has been, and this is definitely a period where there's extraction out of the market and price has been going down. And it's no surprise if you think that interest rate has been at 0% and the amount of money that's been printed, that has resulted in an increase in all prices, not only in the crypto world, but also in the traditional markets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think we're seeing a retraction, and the retraction we're seeing now is compounded by the rising interest rates and the fiat world having to deleverage because of that interest rate. But us in crypto land, if you think about it, we're not very highly leveraged. So from our perspective, I think crypto is just going through a normal cycle where the tourists are leaving and the residents are staying, or the immigrants are staying.
Yeah, well, I'll tap into that, Stefan. And so economy in general, and before that I spent actually 7 years in the Ministry of Finance in Israel. Economy goes like this, it ups and downs, and that's what happens. And essentially, when you print money, and that's what happened during COVID, then essentially instead of the market going downwards in a natural way, then it keeps going up in an unnatural way. And then what you get afterwards is a more, I would say, violent recession. And I think that's what we're seeing currently, or maybe, I don't know if we're in the end of it or no, but so we have a more violent correction in the markets. Another thing that I will say, so you mentioned Andreessen Horowitz. So one thing that they do say is that price bubbles, what do they serve? So we had a long time that a lot of teams got funded, and those teams and the amount of money that went into this space now allow a lot of teams to keep building. So and the time that things will go up, so you have a lot of new products and new teams and new products out there. So the spaces keep being built more and more. So it's also positive.
So I'm Karim Noorani, CSO of Link2. If you've downloaded Zengo, download Link2.com app. And what we do is we've democratized access to private investment of pre-IPO unicorn companies. In relation to what we're talking about, the crypto bubble, I'd like to separate it into two sections, right? There is a tendency to think that, or there may be a tendency to think that the crypto market is in tandem or reflecting the public markets to a certain extent. But what we have to do is dissect the difference between the crypto market that we're looking to, or the crypto coins or the crypto assets. There is utility and there is proof, there is value to cryptos, but there is this whole other sector that is actually community driven. So I don't think we can place all of these crypto bubbles, assets, winters into one category. We have to separate the categories, and then dependent on what your investment thesis is, look at those markets separately. So if you look at some of, if you think Bitcoin was built to hedge inflation, there's an issue there. If you look at Ether or Solana or Cardano built on utilities and protocols to achieve certain things, we have to look at the utility there. And then you look at some of the cultural coins that are enabling emerging countries and populations in those emerging countries to create commerce, connection, and empowerment. That's a different one. So depending on where you are and who and what you're investing in, we have to separate those things and not bulk it up.
For sure, and I like how you touched on that, because I feel like the consensus that I'm seeing is that to survive a crypto project, it needs to solve some sort of problem. It needs to be something other than a speculation tool, right? And I love the comparison that a supposed crypto market bubble people are making a comparison between that and the dot-com boom, the dot-com bubble bursting. So do you think there are any similarities between the two? Do you think there are any differences? If so, what are they? You're at
let's remember Stefan, I'm going to say this again, bought the first $5 Bitcoin.
In 2012, right?
Right. And now he's talking about...
Yeah, I mean... Yeah, I mean, the dot-com bust was a big... it was a bubble, but I felt that... I don't think this bear market, winter market is the same as the dot-com. I think 2017, you could do that analogy. I think the 2017, 2018 crash, I would say was more akin to what we saw in 2000. You saw business plans being created and everything was going to just add .com at the end of it and you would raise money. That was what was going on in those, it shows my age, but I went through that whole wave and it was like you were raising money in a week. I mean, it was like crazy fast, and equity money, right? But either way, this cycle feels very different. People are building, the tools are much more advanced than they were in 2017. The residents, not the immigrants, the residents are totally committed to the project. And I think the immigrants that are here now are also committed to the projects because they want to stay and they see that the opportunity by working through this, coming out on the other side is going to be really great and present a great, the new unicorn in crypto land.
I tend to agree. I'll just say one point of resemblance that we can say is that there's the technology and then there's the adoption by the retails. And the technology is there. By the way, it was there also in the dot-com bubble, but I think that we expect the adoption to be a lot quicker than it is, and that thing takes time. And so that's a point of resemblance that we do see, and it takes time, and adoption is hard and has iterations. So that's a point that we're also experiencing right now.
So I would like to ask both of you, because you have the wallet, you've had the experience of the Bitcoin right from the origins. I mean, what percentage of the world population right now is engaged with crypto assets or cryptocurrency in its various forms? I mean, if we look at an 8 billion population, I mean, what we're talking about right now is a small community, right? So what is that?
I mean, I've looked at this, and I believe that there are maybe 500 million people worldwide that own some form of crypto. That can be through an ETF, that can be through a trust, through some sort of actually DeFi participants, or any range, or on a Binance account, or anything, right? Or Coinbase account, no matter what. But 500 million users worldwide, and in the DeFi segment, though, we're maybe only 20 million. But that 20 million today has maybe 200 billion in TVL locked up across all the DeFi protocols. And so it's a highly active and engaged community. It's very tight, but that community has to grow to maybe a 300, 200 million in the next 2 to 3 years. And if the total value of all coins grows to $9 trillion, it's still not even the size of gold if that's what happens. So we've still got a long way to go, and that is still a minuscule portion of the overall market size in terms of financial market, and number two, in terms of user base. And in order to do that, we need to have much better user experience. And we need to invite users, designers, UX designers to come in and help us build that, e.g. nice wallets that actually interact. And on a non-custodial basis, that's really where we're happy. I'd love to see more of that.
Yeah, so you touched about UX, and providing a better experience. So I'll just ask, and I usually ask that, how many of you lost the key in the car key, house key in the past couple of years? Yeah. So I lost like 3. So to be honest, yeah. So usually like a third. Usually a third raises their hand. So we get used to these weird standards that if you lost your key, so in crypto it's a death sentence, and that's a weird standard, and we're used to it. But first of all, I mean, we're in Zengo, so we're taking out of this vulnerability, which is just is not enabling us to create mass adoption, because right now the people that are entering the space, and we talked about coins, but we didn't talk about NFTs. But essentially, a lot of people that go in this space, they just want an NFT, and now they're trying to figure out what the hell they need to do in order to get that. So they expect the same service that they have on Twitter, they have on PayPal or Venmo, whatever. They don't want to go through those pain points and those weird stuff that we're used to, and those are, and we talk about it here. But so the level of service that is, that is expected is where we need to go, and I think that everybody in the space knows that, and they're going forward to that direction.
I'm going to bring it back a little bit to actually. So if you look at what we do in the private equity space. It's an innovative way to invest in private equity that's not been possible for accredited investors for decades because of whatever reason. Wall Street has held that opportunity for themselves. But what we do find is these innovative investors are also holders of crypto. And what we're seeing there is the thought leadership that they're trying to identify in use cases of particular cryptos and how best that those things are going to change the way the economics of the environment work, whether it's Bitcoin as a store of value or as XRP as a rail that enables certain things. So the real question, and going back to Stefan's, is if it's only 500 million, then we look at the worldwide population and we say, even if it's 1 billion people or 2 billion people that get involved, the real question then becomes, to your point, is there an opportunity for all of these coins to raise or rise in value very quickly once the regulations are identified, right, and move in that direction? Because now all of a sudden you've got Bitcoin at, what, 27,000, potentially with 21 million coins. Does that go up to the $100,000, $200,000 value as soon as it's recognized that it's a valuable asset?
Yeah. You wanna?
You're making my job easy, Kareem. Go ahead.
Yeah. You're a very hard moderator, Kareem. I don't know. Kathy is doing great, but you're a tough one. I'll just say that I think we talk about Bitcoin, but essentially the main thing are stablecoins. And when you talk about payment layers and when you talk about DeFi, everything is built on stablecoins. Now, essentially, what I think that will happen is we're going to see also, the USD and everything that happened on the Terra ecosystem, but regulation is going to kick in, and once regulation is going to kick in, then also mass adoption and bringing stablecoins into the familiar payment systems that we know is going to be a lot easier. So I would expect that the mass adoption regarding coins will be from the stablecoins that we know. And on another direction, the digital assets is going to be something, that is going to be separate, and it's about identity and ownership and other stuff. So, that's what I think.
I don't think we can wait for the regulators to make the decision, because I don't think they're going to make it fast. I think we're going to be waiting all the time. They're always going to be behind us, and we're always going to expect them to tell us what to do. I don't think we can afford to do that. We're here, and remember, Bitcoin was a peer-to-peer electronic cash system that was set up after the GFC, or the Great Financial Crisis, and it was set up as a means to change the system. And as a result, we haven't changed the system. We're waiting for the system to tell us how to change it. And guess what? They're not going to like us to change anything than what they have today. And so we're taking away market share from them. We're creating an alternative to their monopolistic situation. And they don't want that. And so we as entrepreneurs are building solutions that are disruptive. And a disruption by nature is unpleasant because it brings about change. And we all know that establishment and institutions don't really like too much change, especially not if they can't control it. And so how do we navigate in that? That's a balance for us. That's to identify how far can we push it, and then where is the boundary, and how do we continue to nudge that boundary forward as a community? And I think that's what we're doing.
Kareem, any more questions? Kareem, any more questions?
No.
I'm just giving you. I'm just messing with you.
If
Totally just messing with you.
Drop the mic and go, man.
Totally just messing with you. I love this. This is what we're here for. You guys just talk it out. My questions are just to help guide us. So I am going to go back a little bit to the .com bubble bursting comparison, because I think it's kind of important to look at kind of what happened there and to see if we're seeing something similar. But I think, when we're looking at crypto projects and what they need to survive whatever sort of downturn, whatever we're seeing right now, the dot-com crisis, it didn't kill the internet. It didn't prevent tech companies from finding their footing. So what do you think, crypto projects need to do to survive that would-be situation? What do you think the pets.coms of a would-be crypto market bubble are?
Make sure you have enough runway. It's a simple game. If you look at pets.com, they didn't have no runway. They spent it in one way. And then you look at Amazon that came out the other end. They continue to have enough runway. They raised money. And today, we look back at Amazon. Now, I think, we look at what DC, they wish that they hadn't allowed Amazon to be created, right? And so, anyway, I think there's potential for the next crypto empires to sort of disrupt the Amazons of the world. What does that look like? I don't think we know yet, right? But I think the next unicorn that's going to be on the Link2 app, by the way, is going to be a crypto unicorn that we will all be able to participate in and be able to manage the tokens for the Zengo wallet. So that's
nice.
Good job. And it's going to be Laguna, by the way.
That's nice. Yeah, I'll just say that, when digital payments came out, so everybody was very stoked. And a bit later, so things started to go sour because of scams, because of, a lot of security matters, and that really kind of hurt the adoption. And I think that we're also seeing that in crypto right now. And for wallets and for people around us in the space, so the security is the number one issue that users are currently facing. And so there are a lot of teams pushing forward, and I think we're one of the leading teams that we want to make sure that the security allows you to participate. And if you're not sure, then how are you gonna put your life savings into something that you can just lose in front of your eyes due to if you sign a message and you connect to a website, or you lose something and then you just can watch everything go away, and that's something that is just not acceptable. So the security matter, I think that it's gonna rule the next year or so. And security is UX, and UX is security, especially in crypto, and it's also in the digital payments when it just started.
So we heard about Zengo, we heard about Link2.com. We've got to listen to Truflation, pay attention to Truflation, which is going to tell us everything that's happening in the economy. Here we go. But I would like to take away a little bit from this. It's like, okay, security is important, the user experience is important, the UX, UI is important, the backend technology is important. But let's look at the people investing in these various crypto people. It's just all of us, right? It's all of us. And we go, so I mean, I'll be the first to admit, it's if I'm investing in something, you should all be selling. If I'm selling something, you should be buying. I'm the perfect contrarian. So basically, the idea is pay attention to what it is you want to achieve and how you're going to do that, and do your research and study. I think there's a parallel between the public markets and what we're seeing in the crypto environment, just because of the number of people involved. The volatility is higher because of the value that's in the crypto environment that has less disbursement value, right? So as soon as one large transaction happens, that affects the valuation tremendously. And I think we forget that is a small relationship to the value. The transaction is a small relationship to the value. And so we have to pay attention to that. But in anything else, there are good companies and good protocols and good environments that you can pay attention to. Just don't do what I do, right? At the end of the day. Because what we tend to do is, like, if there's enough hype, that's where we go, and that's where the rug pull happens. It's like, hey, all of a sudden, it's like I didn't pay attention, and I lost my money. So there's a huge parallel, I think, between the public markets and the equity market, the crypto market that we see, in my opinion.
Awesome. You just touched on this a minute ago, but for, let's say, the average person who has never, touched the crypto space, has nothing, doesn't know much about it, they're reading all of this about, a crypto crash and, a lot of cautionary tales about the space. What would you tell them to look for, to watch for, how to enter this space smartly?
Yeah, I'll start. So one thing that actually the founder of Zengo, Uri Elochayon, it's one lesson that I learned from him, and I take that everywhere, is you can read and you can watch videos, but until you do something by yourself, get a wallet, go buy something, buy ETH on, I don't know, an exchange or somewhere else, go to DeFi and try that. Until you do that, you won't really understand. Now, once you do that, you understand the pain points, where the industry is problematic, where it needs to go, what do you need to do an investor, what you don't know. So everything becomes clear. So the thing is, and it's a bit scary, but just try. It doesn't have to be with $100,000, but take $100 and try, and you will understand more than reading your whole year of watching crypto Twitter and so on. So that's my advice.
Yeah, echo, cap. Drop the mic, there you go. Yeah, no, I couldn't echo more. I mean, I look at people that I spent most of my career trying to build out a peer-to-peer payment system. I wanted to see velocity in crypto, with crypto, on a layer 1. And I used Bitcoin Cash largely as the way to do it because it was fast, it was extremely reliable, and it was cheap. And so I thought that we could get merchants to sign up. And what I realized is people didn't like velocity, right? They didn't like the volatility. Sorry, not velocity. They didn't like the volatility. And nobody wants to be the guy that spent $3,000 or $300 million on a pizza, right? And so stablecoins provide that solution. And it was an amazing UX experience. So now how do we get stablecoins back away from just yield farming and trading into, let's use it as a tender to be able to go to the shops and buy my drinks here at the bar and pay in crypto. And to me, that's something I think we need to achieve. I've tried a lot throughout my career to pay people wherever I can in crypto. Everywhere I go, I always ask, do you accept Bitcoin? Do you accept crypto? Do you accept... And then a lot of times they'll say no. But when they say yes, they say, okay, how do I do that? What do I do? And then they learn and they get into it. Like you said, right? Download this wallet, download that wallet. And then they get into it. And some of the, I can't say, emphasize this better. Some of the people that actually accepted Bitcoin, they got into it and they immediately aped in, and they're now full crypto within a 2-year time horizon. They're now on top of it. They know the key influencers. They're in all the Telegram groups, and they're engaged, and they're now full-time crypto contributing to the community. So that's super happy to see, and they're passionate about it, which is what is amazingly, and they're actually extremely grateful too, which is even better.
So I agree with you. There are so many groups that you can actually pay attention to and learn a lot from. But I also agree with you. It's just try different things and put a couple of, put some money behind every crypto. But I think it's the idea of realizing what each of these things do, what each of these crypto things do. So if you look at transfer of payments, I mean, if you have a friend that lives in a foreign country, actually do a transfer of payment using the various protocols and see what the gas fees and the interest rates are and the charges are, and the speed of it, and if that's what you want to think about as a gateway to payments, then that's what you experiment with. If you want to look at the community aspect of it, then find cryptos that involve with community and building that community. So, and experiment with these, because what we're seeing here, and a lot of us have not experimented with, is what the international global community is doing with crypto, and we're still limited with our practices. So experiment outside of our little US community and see what works. That's what I would say.
Can I ask just a quick question, general question, just sort of, I just realized this now as we're talking, is actually we haven't addressed NFTs, right? And is NFT the entry into crypto, right? Is that something that creates an emotional attachment? It's something I can see? It's not just a number in a wallet?
Well, is it an entry or maybe some of the noise to bypass to get to the true kind of core tenet of the movement, right? I mean...
So I'll take a step back, and what happened to wallets? So as a non-custodial wallet, so we had you have custodial exchanges and so on, and you have non-custodial wallets. And a year ago, they were pretty much alike. You buy Bitcoin, you hold Bitcoin, you sell Bitcoin, and you go home. hopefully with some money. And what happened in the last year? So we had DeFi summer and we had NFTs, and now everything happens on chain. Now, what does it mean? It happens on chain. That if you want to go to the Moonbird party in NFT NYC, you need to prove your ownership. So you need to hold it in your wallet. And if you want to get airdrops of a different protocol, so you need to hold it. So now, actually, wallets become more attached. It's where you store your identity, and it's where you use it to interact with the world. And it's so essentially NFTs are taking us somewhere else. It's more of our identity. I think it's like our phone. Our life is in our phone, and that's where wallets are going, and that's where NFTs are going. And it's a lot more diverse than having coins, which are they're amazing, but it's something different. And it's a lot easier for people to understand and to connect and to understand, what they can do with it. It's a picture, it's your art, it's your events, it's everything that you have, it's you. So yeah, I think it's different, and that will drive adoption.
Can I push that boundary a little bit? Just a little bit?
Go for it.
I think what we're going to see in the not too distant future, that each one of us is our own token. And the value that we have and created and can disseminate is what has value. So tie in self-sovereign identity, tie in data, experience, and we become our own bank. And once we become our own bank, we're an NFT, we're a payment gateway, and we're a token. So I'm just pushing it a little bit out there. So 4 or 5 years from today, we'll replay this.
There you go. You called it. We will have called it. Awesome. I'm trying to read your watch upside down. I think we're out of time, if I believe. But thank you all for staying for one more panel, talking to me, talking to each other. Really appreciate it. And yeah, everyone have a good happy hour and dinner, and have a good weekend.
I just got another airdrop. Look at that. Oh, wow, man, just came down here.
Go for it.
So when you talk about your own token economy, like you are your own token, is that like an IOU token or what?
Well, given your talent, it might be an IOU token. Look, data is important, right? Data is the most important thing, and how that's stored and what the value of that is, and what is the data that you can impart and willing to release and share. When we talk about data, it's all of you and your knowledge and what you've done and what you can do. That's part of that whole system, right? So you may be valued at a little bit and a lot, just depending on who you are.
I'd like to answer that as well. So, it's a bit of a cliche, but we talk about Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, right? So it's Web 1 read, Web 2 read write, and then Web 3 is read write own. So essentially, when you have everything on chain with you, so that means that you can move to any other platform, but your assets, they come with you, right? And so I relate more to that because, you have DISO, you have BitCloud, DISO is from BitCloud, and you have their own tokens, and that's interesting, but I think that your identity as a whole is something a lot polar, and that goes with you on chain to every other platform with no boundaries and nobody that has ownership over your assets, and I think that's where it's going. So, if you have followers there and if you made your own IP somewhere, then it goes with you wherever you go. So it's yours. It's nobody else's, and you decide what to do with it. If you want to monetize, monetize. If not, not.
So, one thing I've been trying to think about is how correlated is the DeFi system to interest rates. What I mean by that is, as interest rates go up, I thought about how the functionality of being able to collateralize your assets, get stable coins, spend for things, that becomes even more competitive, right? Because it becomes cheaper debt. But what I don't understand really is that mechanism somehow connected to real interest rates? And do you guys kind of agree with that sentiment, or how interest rates could affect that market?
You want to take it, or?
Which interest rates? Real world interest rates or crypto interest rates?
Real world interest rates, like things set by the Fed or
I think that we often forget that high interest comes with high risk. And essentially, so when interest rates are down, then you look for alternatives. And DeFi is an alternative. But what happens is when, the 10-year bond yield is up, and you can get 3% on your crypto without having essentially almost any risk, then all of the smart money just goes away. And the thing that happened in crypto is what it's a bit of not what we expected, but everything goes into one bucket, which is called risky. So tech stocks, crypto, everything goes to this bucket. It's called dangerous, and all the smart money goes away, and and it flows to where you can get interest, but with a very low risk. So I think it's all connected, yeah, essentially.
Yeah, if you think about the fiat world, it is maybe 80 to 90% levered up. So they're highly leveraged. So the impact of interest is super high in a leveraged market. In crypto world, we're maybe 2% leveraged. So there's a huge difference in terms of the exposure that you have and the impact interest rates has on both economies separately. I think what, to your point, right? I mean, the element around if interest rates go up in a fiat world where I'm highly leveraged and I've put money into a high risk category, that high risk category ends up being crypto, then I have to take the money out of crypto because I'm deleveraging in my high risk category to then rebalance my whole portfolio. And that, I think, is what we're seeing right now in the crypto landscape.
So a little bit of addition to that. So if you look at the interest rates that are created by central governments, is leveraged on the current fiat currency, right? And it's a manufactured number that does something for somebody. But if we go to the environment of the crypto environment, then interest rates are determined by peer-to-peer of the risk that you're going to take on a particular investment and what your potential return is based on yourself as a borrower or lender. So I think that as we DeFi and decentralize the whole environment, that becomes a little bit clearer rather than a manufactured interest rate.
Any other questions? Sure.
So I think the evolution of crypto is going to be the blending of Web 2 and Web 3 together, right? That's where it's going to go. But the adoption curve is kind of, not just because of crypto winter, but people aren't jumping into crypto from the masses like we need them to. I was wondering what you guys think the next hurdle to the adoption curve or the next wave of people coming in is going to be for the investing side of things and everything else. What's stopping them? My opinion is that it's a pain in the ass to get into crypto as it is. That's the shitty part. But what's the big thing?
Billy and the margaritas. No. Joking aside. I don't think it's going to be a magic, there's not going to be that one thing that's going to turn us all across the line. I think it's a gradually and then suddenly, right? It's like we're going to gradually evolve. I think utility is going to be really a big step forward. Unless we have utility or data protection where I can actually really feel I'm sharing my data with you and I'm earning it and I can retract that data at any point in time. But for that, I need a great user experience and a great maintenance and management tool, right? I think that's maybe a bit too far-fetched where we are today. I just really think it's utility. If we drive utility where my kids can actually then go and use their nuance to then go and buy their Nike sneakers, that's something that's going to make an impact, and I think that's really going to drive adoption.
So, first of all, I think that your answer is valid as ours, since, essentially, we have a 24/7 live customer support. We invest a lot in it. We have a response time of under 1 minute on average, and we spend a lot of time with our users understanding what they need and what hurts them. So, I don't want to repeat that every time, but I would say security is the #1 issue. That's, people are afraid to put their money into it, and they're afraid to take another step. So this is one thing, and another thing, yeah, you're right. The on-ramp rails and payment rails and everything, it's not there yet. The fees are still high with everything. Even if you're an exchange and you have withdrawal fees and the bank doesn't accept, so having that the user flow from starting till end with by the way, regulatory. So I agree that we don't need to wait for it, but when there's a cloud, you know, so it's also something that is interrupting. So yeah, so I would say, you know, and that's something that you can enter yourself. Take the user flow from when you start until you want to get it back to your bank after you did everything, you know. So you bought, you held it, you put some into DeFi, you bought an NFT, and then you wanted to take some out, so you sold it and get it back to your bank. And if that doesn't happen the way that it should, so, you know, it's up to us to do it well. That's it.
Katie, what are your thoughts?
I'm not here to give my thoughts, actually. But thank you for the opportunity anyways. I think we're probably wrapped. All right. Well, thank you guys. Really appreciate y'all being here, and thank y'all for being here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, one more. Relationship between interest rates. We were all listening, Ido. Relationship between interest rates and the risk on, risk off trade. And then none other than Karim Noorani, linked to. Big round of applause for Karim. And that's a wrap. Big round of applause for all yourselves out there and all of you at home or do people work from an office anymore? Some do. Some are back in the office on the live stream worldwide. That's a wrap for our onstage content here at Grit Daily House. The Media House. During CoinDesk Consensus. We'll be back another time, likely for South by here in Austin. For those uninitiated, we run events once in a while here from the house here in Austin, Texas. That's wrap. We'll return for the audience here into a reception format. A couple podcasts with none other than Sebastian Ross, who's been holding down the marathon, the fort in the pocket of the marathon that it is. Big round of applause for Sebastian Ross over here, host of Grit Daily Startup Show. And Brianna Ruelas, talked to her. She's new to the team on Grit Daily. She's been around for a month. Works with us 3 months. It's been a quick 3 months. Business development capacity. She's here. Say hi to her. And that's a wrap. Thanks to all you watching at home. Until next time, I'm Jordan French. We're out. And thanks to Consensus for having us here.